learning more about this whole Ukrainian thing. And apparently, have you ever heard a guy? I forgot his Victor Bandera. He was like the founder of Ukraine, but he aligned himself with the Nazis and like massacred a whole bunch of Poles and Jews. And apparently, we have been giving money to the right wing in the Ukraine, who like has glorified this guy. It's apparently illegal to talk shit about him. And we're basically funding neo-Nazis.
We are currently.
Yeah.
Currently.
Because the neo-Nazis are fighting the Russians. So we're funding the neo-Nazis.
Well, I hate to break it to you guys, but neo-Nazism is in, which is very concerning to me.
In right now.
It's in.
Yeah, it's in.
So that's
look at those island
scary.
boys. The master race of island boys.
They're in jail now, aren't they?
I don't know.
I think
we got to ask. That's why we need Mike back.
Yeah, Mike's in Alabama. This is a cold open, right?
Yeah, why not?
Show.
Yeah, why not?
Hey,
talking about topical subjects.
Right, exactly. Hello, welcome to Roast Mortem. It's the best show to cite on your research papers or whatever. It's been a week.
We got a new one. I coined us. We put the oral and historally.
Okay.
You've been gone a long time, my friend. You don't know that history has oral sex now.
I've been in bed for a long time with no sex. Doctor's orders.
Doctor ordered it.
Yeah. He said no thrusting while your head is almost busting. Because it was. It was a leaking brain matter.
No blowing your nose and no blowing loads.
Yeah.
No blowing dudes.
Yeah, you'll have to wait.
Either.
My voice is basically the same. You'll have to wait two weeks until I could blow my nose.
Get all that snot out.
To get the snot out.
Yeah.
To get more of the head tone.
Then we'll hear what you sound like.
Yeah.
He's like evolution 2 right now if you're a Pokemon.
Exactly. So if
like,
this is your first time listening to the show, it's actually a lightweight show now because I don't have these giant adenoids and tonsils getting in the way, garbling my words.
Mm-hmm.
Get them out. Get those bitches out.
They're out now.
Did they show up? Did they dangle them in front of your face when they got them out? Like, check this out.
No, bro. I'm gonna go. I'm going right into this. How was my week? Because it's been 3 weeks since I've talked to you.
Seen
guys.
you.
Yeah. So we'll do that. I'm gonna be selfish. I'm getting right in front of this. I had the operation. If you don't need to get your tonsils taken out, then don't just willy-nilly yourself into it.
Don't volunteer for a surgery.
Yeah, exactly. Don't think it's cute.
Yeah.
Don't think it's cute. Because at 33, what a despicable year I am to lose all this weight in my neck.
Dude, yeah, but think about those extra, few ounces you don't need to go to the gym for.
That's right.
That's true. But I am trying to bulk up, so it's counterintuitive. Either way, yes, I had the operation. I had 4 operations in one go.
Wow.
They did the whole thing. They did a nose graft. So I have plastic surgery now.
Wow. All right. Tom's going to go into Hollywood.
I look more handsome now because what they've done is they've taken my nose and actually straightened it out for better breathing.
Yeah, they made your face better.
There's no more good side. It's all good.
There you go.
All good.
Yeah, I used to be my left side was my good side. Now I'm willing to...
My good side is my face.
I will John Barrymore any way you want.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Tom, you were talking about nose splints. Tell me more about those things.
So if you could imagine this, imagine taking a bar coaster, one of those round joints that say, it's Miller time or whatever, and turning it into a tube.
Looking at one right now. It says Roast Mortem Cast.
We have. Turning into a tube, like a taco, actually, but like a tube on one end.
Mm-hmm.
That was in my nose for 10 days, on each nostril. I didn't know this until they took them out. Because they fixed my septum. And part of that is they just take a little hammer or something and just kind of in there. And then they put these forms in there to let it become its new godly shape, which it is.
What happens to those things?
Well, what happens is that you go to the doctor and they're actually kept in place by a little septum piercing of a stitch.
Oh, so you got your nose pierced too?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Now you've got.
Dude, did you get a really long nose ring coming out of your septum?
Yeah, that's what I'm dealing with. Actually, I can't pick my nose, and there's all these weird scabs in there, and I touch them, and it's strange. There's like a little horse hoof in here right now.
See, I've got that going on now too, but I think it's because my septum's dissolving.
Too much of that baby powder.
No, it's just too much sweat from the gym getting in my nose.
Oh, careful with that. Anyway, so operation successful. 10 days later, they take these coasters, folded up coasters out of my head. I didn't even realize they were in there. I knew there was something in there. I didn't know how big they were until in front of my wife, of all people, this woman comes up to me and takes these long tubes out of my body. And I was like, what? And I couldn't talk. Day 10, so I was...
For the listener, Tom is making faces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa! So, a couple more thoughts. I used this time to research a two-parter. I'm very excited to share that with you guys, but also to watch films, because I like film, guys. I like a lot of films. So, as of today, from the last time we talked, I've watched 50 films.
Oh, my God.
Oh, God damn, dude.
I don't know if I've seen 50 movies in a year.
I've seen 72 this year.
Damn.
Yeah.
Films.
Yeah, there are a lot of good ones, a lot of garbage ones. I definitely recommend The Pygmalion, 1932, I think. A lot of older stuff.
All right.
Watched Soothing Black and White, Thin Man, things like that. The Killing, Stanley Kubrick's first feature.
I haven't seen that one.
Hayden Sterling, very good actor, who I might look into to cover, because you guys know I like the Hollywood people.
Have you done Kubrick, or is he not even dead yet?
Oh, he died.
Kubrick.
He died. Actually, Jeffrey Epstein killed him.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah, Jeffrey Epstein was on the moon landing hoax and then killed him.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
That he filmed.
that Eyes Wide Shut, because that was like basically Bill Clinton was having sex with people on the set of Eyes Wide Shut, and he kept shooing him away. Kubrick was like, "You're in my shot.
This is a movie.
He's particular.
Not your weekend."
He's like, your pubes are too gray for this shot." So he kept chasing him away, and then Epstein came in and killed him.
I know enough about Kubrick where he would be a good roast, for sure.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Watch Strangelove too. Hadn't seen that in a while.
How I had sexual intercourse with a nuclear weapon.
No, I've never seen Doctor Strangelove. I feel like I'd really like it. I've seen the clips from it and know the story, so.
Excellent film. Hayden Sterling, the guy who I mentioned in The Killing, is the general who begins the end of the world.
Oh,
Do you know that?
What's the name again? It's like a weird general name, right? Like a stupid name?
So George C. Scott. Spoilers: we're doing George C. Scott. That's a two-parter. He plays General Buck Turgeon. Turgeon,
Right.
yeah. Which
Right,
apparently
he's a fluoride.
yeah. Well, no, that's Hayden Sterling.
Oh. And Hayden Sterling is Hayden Christensen's great-grandfather. The guy who played Anakin.
I can't say that that's not the case.
Yes,
But
that's how it works.
And Hayden Panettiere, the girl from Heroes, is his daughter.
Yeah, that's how it works.
They're just trading first names.
Yeah.
Hayden.
Yeah, they do it by the first name. It's a weird family.
Very weird.
Not a great first name. I'll just throw it out there. I don't think it's terrible. There's worse ones, but hey.
Hayden.
All right. Before I say enough about me, I have one other thing. The opioid crisis.
Yeah.
I had to handle my own opioid crisis. They don't give you a lot of drugs coming out of that. They give you a 5-day supply, and I definitely needed an 8. I was able to get my 10-day supply eventually, but I was already in pain. I basically was just in the worst pain of my life on day 7 of recovery.
Right after the pills ran out.
Yeah. And I had stretched them out. I was like, I did the math. I was like, I only have 5 days worth. So day 4 and 5, I slowed it down, or 6 rather.
Yeah, let me take some more time between the doses.
Yeah. Didn't work. And they were like, why don't you just call us? They kept us waiting all day, too, because apparently the insurance company, they love getting involved in everything. And they're like, oh, you don't want to pay for these out of pocket. No, you wouldn't want to do that. And Gab's like, she has to be on the phone.
Because you can't talk.
I can't talk.
You can't talk.
We're waiting for 4 hours for the insurance company to clear this. And then Gab goes, wait a minute, how much is it out of pocket? $15. I would have easily paid... I would have paid $300 that day, no problem. Just for those 1 day dose. $15. They held me up for 4 hours, the worst pain of my life.
It's the cost of a deli hero and a bag of chips.
Yeah. Tom, so you were involved in 2 great American pastimes, opioids and insurance, dealing with insurance companies.
Right.
Health
Hold
insurance scams.
Yeah, and here's another one, because the same story ties into day 12. The other unintended side effect of the opioid crisis. Not as dramatic as dying or doing something irresponsible like falling asleep at the wheel of your Hyundai Sonata, but shitting.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy. Did you just have to reach up in there and just grab it? Pull it on out?
Is it like a waterfall, or is it constipation?
I gave birth.
Oh, God.
I gave birth constipation. It's an incredible pain.
Yeah.
I almost passed out in the bathroom a few times trying to squeeze this little nugget out. And I can't really push much because if I do, my nose is going to start bleeding all over the place.
Explode.
Oh, jeez.
So there I am with King in the Hill on in the background.
I'll tell you
leaning
what.
against the tile wall, blacking out, listening to Boomhauer's voice. Just be like, just happy thoughts, pass it.
Dang old one, dang old baby, come out of my mama, dang old.
I highly recommend it. If you're going to do something frivolous like I did, like put yourself into a handicapped situation and you need Oxycontin, take a laxative every day.
Go all out.
Dude, Swiss Chris, dude. I still use Swiss Chris just for fun. Just because.
Just for hanging out?
I thought of you. I thought of you and I thought of Louis Armstrong there.
Loving laxatives.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry guys. I just stole the show for
Hey, we
6
needed
minutes.
a big update.
Yeah,
Been a long time.
Yeah, thanks guys. Appreciate your ears and I'm glad to be back.
Yeah.
Connor, how was your week?
I'll keep mine short and sweet, also because not much notable happened this week. Went to a friend's house to watch the Super Bowl. It was a good time.
Awesome.
Ate some wings, some pizza. And then on Friday, started a new D&D campaign. Very excited to get playing. It was just a session 0, so we're just like planning out what's coming. And
now, are you playing in person, or are you playing with that like D&D
playing
online
in person?
Thing? Woo!
Yeah, I did a Zoom campaign during the early parts of the pandemic, and now it's good to be back in person.
Hell yeah!
Yeah.
Hell yeah!
Should be a fun time.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
What about you, Travis? How was your week?
Well, I've picked up. So we've got football. We've got health insurance. We got opioids. I picked up on another great American tradition. Been playing a lot of Cyberpunk 2027 or whatever the fuck it is. 2077.
Does it work? I heard it doesn't work.
They update it. You just had to wait for these games. You just got to wait. It's great. I love it. But anyway, I've been paying a lot of money on cigarettes, so I figured I'd get myself a douche flute. So now I'm vaping. Now I'm a great American vapor.
Nice.
Oh, God.
Dude, it's one of the ones you fill it up with juice. I'm just puffing on some Razzle Dazzle or some shit like this. I don't know.
So you're not going analog anymore?
No, I am. I'm just supplementing it with vape.
Do you have a weed vape? Because then what you do is you tape them together and you get a 21st century spliff. It's delicious.
Ooh.
Really melts your brain right at the start.
Yeah, no, I think one puff would put me on another planet. I'm not a weeder.
Yeah. I did it once and it was quite the experience, let me tell you.
Yeah, no, I'm just a straight American douche flute. So, but yeah, that's me. That's what I'm doing.
I like the vapes.
All right, Travis, that's enough of your week and whatever the hell we were talking about. I know people were very interested when I was talking. I don't know about you guys, but Connor, tell us who's on the chopping block.
Well, I just could not get enough of the Krupps. We loved Alfred, loved talking about his love of horse shit, so I thought, why not just keep following this familial dynasty all the way to their ruin?
Why not?
Right?
Dude, I love the Krupps. This is like the big heads in Rocko's Modern Life. These are just dopey, large-headed steel boys and girls of Germany.
Yep.
I love to smell shit.
I don't think Ed Bighead was anything like the Krupps.
Yeah, he wasn't a corporate man, dude. He worked for Corpo, Blammo, or whatever the fuck it was.
He was very low level.
All right.
That's what made him so disgruntled. Sorry, I didn't mean to piss in your cereal, but here I am.
Well, today we're going to be talking about a few Krupps. So some of them might fit the Mr. Big Head. One of them, I think, is going to be he's got a very Mr. Burns type of character.
Okay.
Like he kind of just revels in being evil. So, first, where'd we leave off? We left off when Alfred passed away. It was the 1880s. The German Empire is at its zenith. They had just secured their freedom and independence, mainly due to Alfred's guns.
Yeah, and we were talking about Otto von Biz, too.
Otto
It was
von
him
Biz.
and Otto von.
They were getting along well. Alfred was getting a little senile in his old days, was making up weird cannon plans, and his son, who was basically running the firm, kind of just made Alfred go sit in a corner and draw up diagrams and told people at the firm, don't listen to Dad anymore.
When you get old,
Yeah.
no one wants to listen to you. Just shut up.
Yeah, and it's
Shut
a
up and go away.
recurring theme of the Krupps that they go senile in their old age. But we'll get there. For right now, who's taken over after Alfred? Well, it could be no one else other than his eldest son, Friedrich Krupp. And if you remember, little Fritz, as he was known in the family, spent most of his childhood with his mother, going to the Riviera area, because remember, she was like, I don't like horse shit. I'm going to leave this horse shit infested estate and bring my boy to the southern coast of France and Italy.
Right. She was partially sane.
Yeah. She was like, I'm going to get out of here. And
If you haven't, I'm going to stop any of the listeners here. If you haven't listened to the first two parts of Krupps, probably should go back and listen because that mama just was like, fuck you. I don't want to be around Stinky.
yes.
Yeah, and this is beyond a two-parter. We're getting into lore here, so definitely go back.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
This is like The Sopranos at this point.
Exactly. So, who is Fritz? Who is little Friedrich? What was he like? Well, kind of similar to his dad in some ways, but in other ways, much more like his mother. He was much more kind of straight-laced, less paranoid than his dad, and way quieter and more reserved. And he was much more of a true like businessman rather than Alfred, who like wanted to be on the factory floor, getting his hands dirty, drawing up designs.
Okay.
Friedrich was much more, let me do the business deals. I'm going to hire the people to do all the designs and that shit. That's Friedrich's role.
All right.
Now, so Fritz, we're not going to talk too much about him because he's going to be short, tragic life, as we'll see. But he was one of the first arms manufacturers to display the seesaw method of arms development. Now, what that meant is 1 month, he'd have all the heads of state from the various militaries come by and he'd say, look at our new nickel plate armor. Nothing can pierce it. No guns can get through it. Build your navies out of this. And everyone go wild. They'd be ordering huge amounts of plate armor. Firms' money would skyrocket. And then 4 months later, seemingly as a miracle, he'd be like, look, I made a new cannon. And it can pierce that nickel plate armor that I just sold to all of you.
Oh.
And they're like, oh, shit, now we got to buy this new cannon that can pierce all the nickel plate armor. And then 3 months later, he'd be like, wait, I came up with even better armor that the new shell can't pierce.
It's like it's a
so on
very
and so on.
Apple technique.
Oh, yeah.
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 It's like planned
I feel like-
obsolescence. Yep.
I feel like that happens probably a lot now with body armor. They're always like, oh, we got this new type of Kevlar that, no one can shoot through. And it's like, oh, Billy Joe just bought himself an AR and it can shoot through it. Oh, but we got this one now. It's so much better.
Yeah, and all of it's being produced by Smith & Wesson.
Yeah,
The
right.
body armor and the shells. Yeah, so that was Friedrich. He was one that first really pioneered that technique. He was just as much obsessed as his dad was with making money. That was a Krupp family thing where they always wanted to like just sit on a pile of wealth. But whereas Alfred just wanted to sit on it and have it, Friedrich was much more likely to spend it and enjoy it. He liked being rich.
Right. He was on the sit and swivel philosophy.
Yeah.
Question. Does Alfred's house come up again?
Oh, Via Hugel will constantly be a character. It's
Okay.
like Sex and the City where New York is the fifth character. Via Hugel is the fifth Krupp, I guess.
That
I
show
don't
just
understand.
changed on me when you just said that. I used to just thought it was about a bunch of whores.
Well, whores and New York.
Right, but then it's
New York
fun.
is the fifth character.
Right, now it's making
Yeah.
sense. I
Yeah.
get it.
Right. It's like a bunch of whores in a stinky hobolo.
Yeah.
I'm gonna vote.
Having an orgy.
I'm gonna vote for Cynthia Nixon and then move out of the state.
Yeah, no, don't worry. We'll get back to Via Hugel. It'll also not be the mansion of horrors that Alfred wanted it to be. That's something that his kids won't really honor.
Mention of, what'd you say, horrors or whores?
Horrors.
Oh, okay.
No.
Because I thought we were still talking about whores.
No, we're gonna get to horrors later though.
Sometimes
Okay, cool.
that's a synonymous term.
Oh,
Depends
all
on how well several things.
Yeah.
House of Horrors.
So Fritz liked spending his money. He had some interesting hobbies. He really was interested in marine biology. So he developed new techniques of gathering specimens off the sea floor and the seabed. He helped catalog a bunch of different species in the Mediterranean because he built a special collection boat to do all this stuff with. He was
It's
kind
a
of
weird hobby.
a weird hobby, but it made sense for late 1800s
Right, when
Renaissance man
exploring
type.
stuff was
Exploring,
cool.
yeah.
Like, look at the Vanderbilts and
Yeah,
stuff. And,
exactly.
I was gonna say that must be been a rich thing because back where in our hometown we have the Vanderbilt Museum where he like stuffed this shark all retarded and like he's just collecting shrimp and shit and putting it in.
I did watch a documentary about taxidermy during the my sixth stint, and they
This is
talked
one of the 50
about that.
movies?
Yeah, it wasn't great. I don't recommend it. Sick people, those taxidermists, very sick. It's
real strange.
Yeah,
You guys are gonna taxidermy me when I die, right?
yeah, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
I learned how to do it. I watched a documentary.
We're going to put all the
all
things in weird places so that like you have a weird
Cool.
shape to you, but we'll keep the skin.
Where these balls go again, and the knees.
On the chin.
Yeah, Balchinians. So Fritz, he liked spending his money, put it into his hobbies. And what he liked to do also is he spent a lot of time in the southern Mediterranean, especially on the island of Capri. Remember, this is where he spent a lot of his time growing up, so it made sense that he would leave the soot-infested Essen to head down to this nice climate of the south.
Connor, you telling me that he invented Capri Suns? Because we got to be real.
No, see, I mentioned Capri because do you remember when we did the Agrippina episode? I also mentioned the island of Capri for one reason. Remember that?
Yeah.
That was where the second Roman emperor, Tiberius, kind of fled to when he was like, I'm sick of Rome, and I'm going to build my own little sex island where I can do my weird shit.
Yeah, it's Epstein Island.
Seems like if it was good enough for an emperor of Rome, it was good enough for the canon king.
Oh, I see what's happening.
Yeah. So
he's out there getting his cannons polished.
and he's polishing some other little Italian cannons as well.
All right. Well, it was back then.
all right.
It was before they knew what consent or age of consent was, rather.
Yes. So
Yeah.
he's spending a lot of time there. He's built a little estate there, and no one really knows, is this an Epstein Island situation, or is this just a rich guy who can't be open sexually at home retreating to an island situation?
Yeah, if you have to ask
know
that
what?
question,
The press
there's
is
already an
all
answer.
put it
Yeah.
on what the first answer. It could have been the second. We don't really know.
Well, it probably didn't help with the fact that Fritz walked around saying if the grapes grow on the vine, time to make some wine.
Yeah. Probably not the best.
That's a heinous saying you just spouted. Hate speech, really.
Yeah, so
Towards
Fritz
the young.
was using the same island for as Tiberius did for his own sexual escapades. Now, apparently the Italian press kind of got wind of this story. It was kind of like an open secret on the island, and then when the mainland Italian press found out, they were like kind of hounding him.
Yeah.
And homosexuality at the time in Germany was like the capital sin if you were in the aristocracy, but because of that, it was also like super popular among the aristocracy, if that makes sense.
Fake gays?
No, like just it's this weird thing in Germany where it was like if you were gay, it was like highly punished, highly looked down upon. But there are tons of gay guys at the highest level of the military,
I mean, gay
and they're
men,
having their own parties and stuff. And like
on average,
it
gay
was-
men make more money than straight men. So
it was
they're
this like
really
weird
just working their way
dichotomy.
up the
It's like
ladder.
the most looked down upon thing, but the highest levels of the politicians are doing it. Kind of like pedophilia now.
I was gonna say kind of like Congress now.
So maybe
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is Epstein
exactly.
Island.
You know, Lindsey.
Now-
Lindsey Graham is going. Oh yeah, boy. Yeah, boy. How you
Are
doing?
you saying that like we're at the point where all of our leaders are pedophiles because we've been so accepting to the gay community?
No.
We could have prevented that if we were more big. I don't agree with this. I'm just
No,
saying, is that
I'm
what
at
you're
all.
not going to
proposing?
engage with that one.
No, I didn't hear the pedophile part. I was talking about how they're in the closet, but they're going after gay people
Right,
in Congress.
but if people were allowed to say like the F slur today, then the people in Congress wouldn't be pedophiles. They would stop at homosexuality. That's what you were saying. I wouldn't.
It's like
say
they
that.
want to do the
That's,
most taboo thing.
I did not say that, Tom.
Yeah, keep it more
All right.
taboo.
Anyway,
Tight pants.
at the
Continue.
time, it was highly. It was gonna just destroy his career basically because it was a huge scandal once it like started to like leak out, and then when the Italian press finally like published their account, they never actually mentioned Krupp by name, but all they said was a businessman from Essen, and that was enough for everyone to be like, oh, it's Krupp. Like everyone knows it's him.
Right, it's their town.
Yeah, it's blowing up. He's threatening to sue. It almost becomes a diplomatic incident where like Germany is threatening the Italian kingdoms to like retract their papers or else they would invade. It was a big deal.
It's really weird. Speaking of that, like not too further down the line, Hitler and Mussolini.
Yeah,
they made one hell of a panini.
Well, 20 years later, they're going to be fighting each other anyway, so not yet. We're not the Germany-Italy friends yet part.
Imagine if Prince Charles was doing the same thing with the Great Britain right now. Oh, dude, I did not sleep with those children. Let's attack America.
It would be similar to that. It would be similar if the Queen was like, the New York Times needs to recant that story or else we're going to invade.
Do you guys see that the Queen has COVID right now?
Yeah. I think she's dead. I think she's been dead for like 2 weeks.
I wish she was actually dead. I think royalty is parasitic.
Yeah.
But that's not...
Well, that's just the Irish
a topic.
Yeah.
That's a topic
I think...
whole episode.
Yeah, we don't need to get into that because God saved the Queen. God put the Queen there.
Yeah, loyalist boy.
Yeah, 26 plus 6 equals 1. All right. Anyway, reports are trickling out. It's looking bad. At one point, his wife is like Marga, I think is her name. She's getting really upset. She's like demanding, is it true? Is it true? And he takes the extent of it as like, you're hysteric. I'm sending you to an insane asylum.
Perfect.
Because you found out I'm gay. That's not a good look for him. The Kaiser is like, what's going on? What do we need to do about you? And on November 22nd, 1902, Fritz is dead.
Oh.
Now, we don't know how he died. His physicians reported that it was a heart attack. But I didn't want to get into the details because we're going to move past Fritz, but highly, highly suspicious death. It's widely believed he committed suicide to avoid the shame of a long, protracted legal battle, basically.
How old was he?
Fritz was only, let's see, let me do my math real quick. He was 47.
Oh, okay.
No, 48. He was 48 years old. This is just 15 years after the death of Alfred that Fritz, after, guiding the firm through this period, kills himself.
Oh,
Sad.
well. Very, very.
Wow.
So,
I mean,
it's also
what
like
are
a similar
do?
time as like the Oscar Wilde homosexuality cases.
Right.
So like kind of all of Europe
Right.
was going through this gay panic where like high level people were they're having their reputations destroyed just for being gay. So poor little Fritz, he's gone.
That's what it's just like communism. It's gay.
This is just like 1984.
Yeah, the same thing.
Yeah.
They got a witch hunt.
1884.
So now what? Now what are we going to do? Fritz is dead. There's no canon king. There's no clear successor because Fritz had 2 daughters, Bertha and Barbara. They're both teenagers when he dies, so there's no one really to guide the firm. What's going to happen? Now, Alfred had stipulated what should happen in this situation in his will. Basically, it was that the company should become more like a normal corporation, stockholders and a board of directors. Now, this is weird because Alfred fucking hated stockholders and thought board of directors were just socialist scams that were trying to steal his company.
Probably a way to save face, almost.
Yeah.
Legally.
Yeah.
If he hated them and he's just trying to win back his pride and his family name, he goes, not so bad, Died by
Well, and
accident.
also Fritz was an island boy, so he didn't want to do any work.
Yeah.
So no one really knows. They were like, what are you going to do? But the Kaiser, Wilhelm, with his little withered little arm, was like, I can't have what was being called now, I'm going to try some German here, Der Waffenschmiede des Reichs, which means the armory of the empire. That was what the Krupp firm was called. The Kaiser is like, I can't have just anyone running that company. I need someone I can trust. I need someone I can lean on. And they need to basically be like the dictator of their own company so that everything I need to get done gets done.
Yeah. I need more of these gay-ass guns.
Yeah. So basically, what they did is they skirted German law, and the Kaiser kind of passed some loopholes so that the company could stay within Bertha's control, even though she was a woman and was legally not allowed to run the company. And she was only 18.
What's worse? Really? Why did they chase this guy into killing himself?
Just to have a
because he
daughter?
slept with boys.
Yeah.
He's got to have a woman now? What is this?
Wait, but the Krupps...
She's going to school for a liberal arts degree.
She was taking piano lessons.
Yeah. What is this? This woman doesn't
Yeah.
know business. No offense, but she's 18.
I know.
I'm not saying a woman can't run companies. I mean, look at what was it? Elizabeth Holmes. She's worked wonders.
Oh, wait.
But
Yeah.
an 18-year-old girl going to college,
Yeah.
she's too busy
Well,
to
Tom,
think about
I mean,
boys and piano.
I feel like That would be like if Paris Hilton actually took over the Hilton empire.
My God, those pink buildings
all of
just
their
popping
hotels.
up all over the place.
Yeah.
Certain bankruptcy. You can't write off this many handbags.
Yeah.
So here's what the Krupp firm came up with help from the Kaiser. So they did create a board of directors because they kind of had to, but it was all staffed by old Krupp cronies and family members.
Awesome.
They had to have shares printed, and they had to sell. They had to have the shares controlled by 5 people at least, so they could sell it to as many people as they wanted, but it had to be a minimum of 5. They printed 160,000 shares of stock for this initial run. They sold one to an Uncle Felix who lived in Bavaria or somewhere. They gave 1 share to 3 different board members. So each of those 3 guys had 1 share. And the other 159,999 shares went to Bertha, who is, again, just a teenager taking piano lessons at a boarding school at this time.
It's a good position.
Now she is immediately the richest woman in all of Germany, and maybe the richest person as well, just overnight, because she controls all these shares. She's still too young to take any sort of role with the company, so it's Marga, as I mentioned before, Fritz's widow. She kind of is managing the day-to-day stuff.
But wasn't she in a psycho house?
Oh, the moment he died, she got released.
Yeah, they were like, no, it's fine.
They were like, oh, no, never mind. We're going to forget about that.
Actually, we knew you were crazy the whole time.
We knew you were perfectly sane, so come on
Just
back.
that your husband, we were afraid he was going to rape our sons.
Yeah.
So we did it.
She's immediately released, back in Essen, for his funeral.
Good for her.
Yeah.
That sounds like a woman
Right?
who's had experience. This guy's probably talked her ear off. They certainly weren't having romantic moments to talk over. He was probably talking about the business. She knows the ins and outs. Give it to her.
right.
Looks like we must insert my steel rod into your meg daughters, little Fraulines, so they can control the companies.
Why are our sexual
That's their
relations
romance.
so mechanic? Every time it's mechanical.
There's no passion.
Yeah.
So Marga, she herself would say she's not a brilliant business mind, but what she was very good at was finding the right people to work in the jobs that she needed. She was actually exceptional at hiring quality people.
Good.
Because their business kept rising. They were never in danger at this time. And she was really good at doing the day-to-day looking after the factory workers stuff. So she was really into the charitable aspects of the firm that we mentioned with Alfred, where it's I demand total loyalty, but I'll also pay for all your housing and all your needs type of stuff.
Yeah, it was a weird capitalist socialism.
Yeah,
going
the
on in that
capitalist
town. Yeah.
medieval baron hybrid.
Yeah, it really does
Yeah.
sound like a feudalism.
Oh
thing.
yeah, it's straight up feudalism.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, they're benevolent feudalists in a weird way, but not to everyone, as we'll see. Yeah, so she was ingratiating herself with the Kruppianeer. She also still maintained the Krupp discipline of her father-in-law. At one point, she counted the steps from every factory worker's front door to the factory floor. That way, they knew how long it should take them to get to their job. So it's it's from your front door to the factory floor is 1,742 steps. So you need to leave at this time in order to get there on time. And they enforce that.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, but I tripped. I was eating.
Well, you got to build
one of
some
my
time in
breakfast-
for tripping.
Yeah, I was eating one of my breakfast pretzels and schnitzels, and I tripped.
Yeah, it was my breakfast schnitzel, which is stamped with the Krupp name that I bought with my Krupp buck.
With these Krupp eggs. Just Krupp hard-boiled eggs, because they don't let us fry them here.
Well, they got to hard boil them. That way they can put on the shell Krupp.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well,
You can't imprint a scrambled egg.
every egg in Essen comes
You
out
can
of
try.
a boiled chicken. They don't go to the store.
The chickens hatch it into a boiling pot of water.
Imagine that being something that you grow up your entire life just thinking hard-boiled eggs are it.
Yeah, that's all there is.
That's it. So you got egg salad or just eat it raw.
Yeah.
Because you don't know.
How would you like your eggs? What do you mean? They're all the same.
What's that thing that Rocky's drinking?
Sliced or chopped.
Oh no.
So yeah, Bertha, now that she's coming into her late teens, early 20s, the Kaiser, Wilhelm, is all right, I'm basically stepping in as your father. It's time to find you a husband, time to get the Krupp family ship righted, and have a man at the helm who can do all the shit that I need. So, let me see, where am I? So Bertha, now that she was starting this courtship period, she's also starting to take over the jobs from Marga. She viewed herself as a Krupp first and a German second, just like most of the Krupps did. So she kind of viewed herself as the queen of Essen, and that she had 100,000 people depending on her.
Do you think she had sweatpants that said like Kruppeneer on the ass?
No way.
Like
No way
juicy?
she's wearing sweatpants. Maybe a dress with Kruppeneer on the ass. Yeah.
All right, on the ass. Okay.
No, she's a proper lady, this one.
Well, you got to go casual sometimes. Maybe when she was just hanging out, lounging.
The idea of like German casual at the time is wearing like scuba gear.
No, it's probably their riding gear. Because they all loved horses. They just didn't love the horse shit aspect as much as Alfred did, but the Krupps always loved their horses.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's probably the burning question. No one is sniffing shit at this point, or...
Yeah, the book I'm reading didn't mention if they plugged the pipes that led from the manure field up into the office, so I'm assuming that they plugged them because no one was quite like Alfred in that way.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe Alfred was like very just open about it. Maybe they all liked it. Maybe when no one was looking, like they were all
secretly
like,
huffing. Yeah, and Alfred's the only one like extolling the virtues of it out in public.
Yeah,
And
he's
like,
just like,
that's our family secret.
Makes me think about ways to destroy it and stuff.
I got a new gun. I was huffing some good manure the other day.
This is like the Krupps are now from New Jersey, by the way, for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, right. Like it's like they're at like a pizzeria that our secret sauce, and they wink. That's what we do it.
I take tomatoes, I take a little Kool-Aid, some onions, put them in there, ash. Smoke a cigarette, ash.
A little sprinkle.
A little bit of that.
So Bertha also took up the mantle of like looking out for the workers. She started giving out medals for years of service that were almost like military medals. She would socialize with all the Kruppeneer and attend like their weddings and their baptisms and all this stuff, and just wanted to be looking out. Like she wanted to be the queen of her people, you know?
All right. Respect.
Mama Krupp.
Yeah. So in the spring of 1906, so that's 4 years after Fritz has passed on, the Kaiser, he finds his man. He finds his guy for Bertha. And we're going to be talking a lot about this guy. His name is Gustav von Bohlen und Halbach. He was born in August of 1870, just 1 month before the Great Battle of Sedan, where Alfred won the empire for Germany. So it's kind of like a little harbor of potential, just like coming in at the right time.
Right.
He was
destined for greatness.
Exactly. Destined for greatness. He was a career diplomat for the Prussian embassies. He worked in a bunch of different embassies throughout his career, and he was extremely bureaucratic and servile. This guy loved to follow what someone else told him to do. That was his favorite thing. Here's what the author of the book that I'm reading had to say about him. Quote, "He was the man who never does anything wrong, never misses an appointment, and never shows the faintest flicker of imagination. It is, in fact, doubtful that he entertained a single original thought in his entire life."
Oh, so he's like the ultimate sub, dog.
He's the ultimate sub, and he's going to find his daddy Dom in 1928 by
He's
a
like-
little Bavarian guy named Hitler.
He's basically Trevor Noah. He's Trevor Noah.
Yeah.
Kinda, yeah. Just loves to follow. He doesn't want to have to think for himself. He wants someone to tell him what to do.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, it's so. I wish I naturally felt that way. I'd probably be in a better situation.
Yeah.
But
Tom, Tom, you can't let the audience know that we have a full team of writers that actually script out this entire show. It's been going on for about 100 episodes.
we should really fire some of those writers. We definitely need to fire some of our producers
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
So a little more about Gustav. Like I said, we'll get to it later, but he's going to make the perfect Nazi because of all these qualities of just wanting to follow the strong man. He was also extraordinarily punctual. We know a lot about his life because he kept a minute-by-minute daily schedule to the point that he had like specific instructions for the chauffeurs and the servants and for like the house staff. So if he told guests that breakfast was being served at 7:15, the doors were locked at 7:16. Anyone who's late doesn't get breakfast. His driver had to have the car running for a certain amount of minutes before he would walk out. That way it would be the right
Temperature
and like he could like he
wanted
wanted
to preserve the motor, really.
yeah, and he said he wanted the driver to start driving the moment his foot left the ground. So even before he's fully in the car.
I have places to be.
Yeah, he had like timing for meals down to the second. So it'd be like I'm going to eat lunch from like 12:15 and 25 seconds to 12:27 and 31 seconds, and that'll leave me
Holy
18 seconds
shit.
to walk to the door, and that'll leave me another 35 seconds to get to the factory floor, and then I'll have 7 minutes of walking the factory. It was that punctual.
I mean, talk about OCD, but also like this is a time before like the internet. You know what I mean? You had to set your clock. Right?
No one
like,
else
so
lived
if your
like
clock
this.
was like, if your clock was like a little bit off, you know, like to the second, right? Like, how is he? Is he going to like Greenwich Village or whatever the fuck the Greenwich Meridian Time or whatever?
Also, weren't like clocks, like pocket watches, things like that. That was almost a luxury.
Luxury, fairly new, and like Travis is saying, like there's no main clock system, so if someone's like watch isn't synchronized to yours, you're going to be late and he's going to lock you out of the meeting.
You know what?
Yeah, you had to wind it too, like the pocket watches too, right? You had to wind the pocket watch so it could just like die over time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's pretty funny actually. This guy,
crazy.
He sounds like a champion. Tell me more.
He was a big fan
Yeah.
of Alfred's, so he read, you know how Alfred kept all those diaries? He read through all of Alfred's diaries because Alfred was basically like his hero. He's like, that's my man, that's who I want to live for.
So he got the job then. He got his dream job.
Oh yeah. Well, I think some of it also was he was a career diplomat in like he was in the Vatican when he met Bertha and when the Kaiser arranged this whole marriage.
Right.
And I think once he realized like, oh, I'm going to be the Krupp family, I'm going to consume everything there is to know about the Krupps. That way I'm ready for it. Because he was just like, I have to serve my Kaiser.
Yeah, even though the book didn't mention it, this guy was sniffing horse shit.
He definitely,
because if this
he
was
definitely
his
tried
hero,
it. He definitely
if
tried
this was his hero, he was doing it.
I mean, we do this on the show too. Like I remember, it goes without saying, when I did the research for Oliver Reed, I took in as much alcohol as possible.
Right. You want to live like him.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll admit, I did not smell horse manure for Alfred. I was not near any horses. I probably should have. That's my bad as a researcher.
I wouldn't expect you to. You know, like when we did, what was the guy, wow, I'm forgetting his name. Blakely, the doctor who with the goat nuts.
Oh, goat nuts, man.
Yeah, why did I forget? Yeah, see, I didn't do that. See,
Brinkley.
Brinkley. Yeah,
what did he do?
This gentleman, that's a fascinating episode. Go back and listen to that one if you haven't heard it, those of you at home. But this gentleman, he was around, I would say like 1880s, 1890s. What he did was someone came to him and was like, I can't get an erection anymore because my boner's different. And what he did was he took goat gland. So he took a goat and sliced a little of the nut off and threw it in the sack of his patients.
Yeah.
Did it work?
According to the people who had it done, I mean,
All right.
and he became a multimillionaire and ruled half of Texas for a while.
Good for
God
him.
bless America.
Yeah, Brinkley, J.R.
All
Brinkley.
right. I got to listen to that one.
Yeah, that one's a cool one.
All right.
I didn't do that.
So
That's what
another
I'm saying.
thing about Gustav, he believed in discomfort because he believed that being comfortable meant you were weak.
Oh, this guy's such a sub.
So he would always make sure the house was extremely cold. He and Bertha are going to redo the house a lot, and one of the things that they do is like they make the windows actually work, and he would always leave them open, especially at night.
Even better. Somehow it's gotten worse.
Yeah, he
to
made the
be in
house
that
almost worse because he wanted it to be really cold because he liked being cold, and it would also, he believed, encourage people to like walk into his office, say what they had to say, and leave because it was so cold, rather than like, oh, well, I'm going to sit down and have a smoke and have a drink with you and talk about business. And it's like, no, it's freezing in here. I'm going to tell you what I need to tell you and get out. And he was like,
See,
"Good."
you might think I'm crazy, but I do the exact same thing. I have my windows are always open, even when I lived in New York, always open.
Well, I'm going to say that maybe it didn't have to do with your distaste of comfort, because you have like couches and things like that. It's probably your size, to be fair.
Oh yeah, I run a little warm.
You're a
don't know
little
how
warm.
big
You're well insulated, my friend. I'm imagining this guy to be like, this is like Jordan Peterson is like a light version of him.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he also would keep them open at night, both for the discomfort reason and also because he believed that it encouraged people to remain in their beds instead of like getting up to canoodle. Because also one of Bertha's favorite pastimes was catching the house staff sleeping with one another and then firing both of the people on the spot. That was like her favorite thing to do.
Bertha's a bitch then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a bitch.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to just watch.
No, she would
But,
like spy on them and then like catch them in the act and then fire them there, right then and there.
Oh, you are doing the naughty. I will fire you in the morning. Oh, yes, I will fire you in the morning.
I'm going to come first, and then I'm going to get you out of my sweet house. I'm going to kick you out of the windows that are open.
Yeah. So that's a little background on Gustav. Oh, one thing I didn't want to mention: his grandfather was a Union general in the American Civil War. Oh. And then he led like an army of German immigrants in the fight against the South. Once the war is over, he retires to his farm, I think in Pennsylvania. And then when Germany was united, he was like, I want to get back to my motherland, fatherland, and moved the family back to Germany. But fought on the right side of history in the Civil War and the wrong side of history for the rest of the generations of the family.
You know, you can't win it all.
No.
You can't win them all.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Maybe we'll look back and someone will be like, wow, America fighting in the Vietnam War, not so good. Wait, we already figured that out.
Yeah, that's got a low-hanging fruit on that one. Yeah. I think the moment they step foot in there, they're like,
maybe not.
Maybe next time.
Are we the
let's not do
baddies?
this.
Yeah. So we'll go back to spring of 1906. That's when the Kaiser arranges this wedding. Gustav is 36. He just met the 20-year-old Bertha. So kind of a pretty good age range, all things considered, that we've covered on this show. I mean, 36 to 20, not bad in the grand scheme of things.
It's really not. Yeah, we've seen some heinous age gaps.
We just had, Agrippina and Claudius was like 48 and 22, and they were aunt and uncle. Or uncle and niece.
There were layers to that disturbing relationship.
So this one, not that bad. And Gustav, he's a short king. Bertha was a foot taller than him.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
He's a bagel boss?
Oh, yeah. So he's a bagel boss, short king, Nazi man who loves being cold and kept a minute-by-minute calendar.
I mean, you got
Yeah.
God.
So this,
you know what? If I was his dom, I'd probably just like tie him to a chair and then like put a clock in front of him, and be like, "Look at all these meetings you're missing."
Oh my God, he'd orgasm a million times.
Oh yeah.
I think it's like, you know, not that I'm ragging on shorter guys, but like, you know, that whole like, there is that Napoleon complex,
it's real,
and like
it's
you
real.
can manifest that in many ways, and I feel like the timing thing is probably that. You know. So it's overcompensating for something.
Because I'm going to be on time and I'm going to listen to what everyone says. That way they can't be mad at me.
Yeah, because everyone else fucks it up all the time because they don't think about it that much and it's not that important.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get on everyone's case all the time. And it's like, should have just been tall, man.
Yeah, should have just grown.
I just show up when I want.
Drink some milk.
Probably should have been drinking milk, you dumb idiot. Like fucking Tony the Tiger told you, dumb piece of shit.
Yeah.
They're tall.
So our lovely couple, they meet in the spring of 1906, and they will be married on October 15th of that same year. They will be married in Essen. The whole head of the German state will come on down. And so Bertha, her father, had passed away 4 years before, so she needs someone to walk her down the aisle and give away the bride. Who better than to give away the bride than the following people all at once? Kaiser Wilhelm, his brother the Crown Prince, the entire Prussian cabinet, and all of the military heads of the Army and Navy.
Do you think that this could have been politically motivated?
Well, let me read you a little excerpt from the Kaiser's wedding toast.
Okay.
Because apparently this whole wedding is just the Kaiser like feeling himself. Like,
oh, okay, I like that.
In the book, they go into like real big detail of what uniform he picked out, and he like picks out his like best, most militaristic one. Brings like a really sharp sword that he's like always waving around,
wearing
to, like,
his
celebrate.
Carhartt socks.
Oh yeah, he's really fanboying it up. So here's how he toasted the happy couple. Quote, "May you be successful, my dear daughter, in maintaining the works at the high standard of efficiency which they have attained, in continuing to supply our German fatherland with offensive and defensive weapons of a quality and performance unapproached by those of any other nation."
Well, I don't know about you, Gustav, but I'm fucking dripping wet after that.
That's really how to get the wedding night going.
You may now blast the bride with your large cannon.
Yeah, there's no plate armor in here, baby.
And now I will present a cake made by the German cake boss, Der Boss.
Der Boss.
Der Boss.
This cake is 100% edible and 100% metal.
And Wilhelm's the one who gets to cut the cake, not the couple.
Yeah. Sit down. It's time to eat cake. Hurry up. You have 30 seconds to cut the cake.
Yeah, talk about she wasn't like she wasn't the bridezilla. He must have been the bridezilla.
He was. So here's one anecdote that I had to share. So he's the head of state, he's the monarch, and this is like right when the like monarchy is like peaking basically all across Europe. And so they move from like the main like ballroom, I guess, to a secondary ballroom. And the Kaiser is one of the first ones down, and he sees an old flame, is how it's written in the book. So a lady he used to flirt with. And so he walks over and starts chatting with her. Now, the rules of like conduct at the time stipulated that if the Kaiser has entered a room, or if you're like following the Kaiser into a room, you can't sit down until he sits down.
I've seen that before.
Yeah, it's like a kind of a common rule from the monarchy, but most most royals would either like notice and be like, "Oh, I'll sit down just so everyone else can, and then I'll get up and do my thing," or they'd be like wave it and be like, "Everyone just go sit down." That's like the common thing. Wilhelm spent 2 hours flirting with this woman. Well, all of the other guests are just standing around.
Yeah, they're just trying to pretending to have normal conversations. Was just like eyeing him
not
the
allowed
whole
to
time,
sit
right?
down,
Like,
not allowed to get a drink, not allowed to eat. They just had to stand in this ballroom and make chit chat while he's flirting with an old flame.
God, nothing gets these women off more than power. Watch this. I'll make a bet. I'll make a bet with you. If any of these people sit, you don't have to sleep with me.
Yeah. So, Kaiser wasn't done, though. His final gift to the couple is the biggest one yet, and it'll make telling our story much easier. Rather than Bertha taking Gustav's name, the Kaiser allows/orders the couple for Gustav to take Bertha's name. That way, there's still a Krupp in charge of the Krupp works. So Gustav becomes Gustav Krupp von Bohlen und Halbach, and is known for the rest of his life almost purely as Gustav Krupp.
So I thought, I mean, that is strange in European countries. I've been doing some research into a Japanese man. I'm not going to, no spoilers, but apparently that's a common thing in Japan. So if you have like a business and like say if like you don't have a son or whatever, like the daughter marries off and then the dude takes the business's last name.
Oh yeah,
So-
that's exactly what we got going here.
Are you saying
Yeah.
so? It's Axis common then.
Seems to be an Axis adjacent
Yeah,
thing.
Axis common, yeah.
We'll find out if it happens in Italy or Romania.
I
That
am-
can
yeah.
really seal it.
If I have some children, they're definitely going to take my wife's last name, so they can get into colleges.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so that's the last of the Kaiser's gifts for this wedding day. Alrighty. All right, so the couple did their duty as the Kaiser outlined, because part of his speech was also like, please have kids. That way we don't have this kerfuffle again. They do. Almost 9 months to the day after their wedding, Bertha gives birth to little Alfred, who's named after Alfred, but not the anglicized version, just Alfred.
Okay.
They would have 8 children between the years of 1907 to 1922, 6 boys, 2 girls. I believe 5 of the 8 would live to adulthood. And we will follow some of them as we continue in this story.
It's interesting because you said he's going with the German version of Alfred because, spoilers, Germany and England, probably not so good buddies no more.
No good. So Gustav, just after the wedding, he's immediately taken the reins of what is commonly called in all of Europe simply Die Firma. That's when you say the firm, you're referring to the Krupps. That's how like ubiquitous they are.
Wow.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So he also, one of the first things he does is expands the social programs that had been like a Krupp family constant. That was something that, his hero Alfred did, so he wanted to expand upon it. What also happened was there was a corresponding increase in what was expected of employees because they were giving them more stuff. So yeah, we're going to build you new and better housing with better running water. But you're also only allowed to vote for these 2 political parties, and we're going to check on that. And if you do anything wrong, you're fired and you lose your pension, and so is your family.
I love democracy.
Right? Isn't it great?
Connor, I have a little question. So they mainly did exclusively like artillery, large arms, right? Like they weren't working with like Mauser and like doing small arms shit too, were they?
Well, I'm actually very thankful you asked that because the next section is called the Krupp Firm Snapshot, 1906 to 1910. So
okay, perfect.
Let's review what the firm's doing right now. Yes, the big guns obviously is what Alfred loved. Fritz would kind of start to diversify that. They would start to do not so many small arms because you don't need this Krupp steel for that, but like I said, they were doing nickel plate armor, which is almost only used for naval vessels. They're still doing all the railroad shit, so that's constant. But let's go over their holdings at this point, just to give a real picture of how big this company is.
All right. Are we investing? This is Tom. Tom and I, we're both in the business. We're both in the big people. Are we investing?
Am I calling up my Fidelity agent, who I've never actually spoke to because it's just an online service?
Yeah.
Am I going to call them up tomorrow?
Am I going to call up the medieval English superhero Robin Hood and tell him, give me the rich's money and give it to my bank account?
See, you can call them, you can ask, and they'll say, yeah, it's a great idea, but it's still a privately owned company because Bertha owns all but 4 shares.
Let's just say, let's hear the snapshot.
Here's what they got. We're going to start with just their international holdings. The Krupps owned the majority of Australia's entire base metal industry. So all their copper, iron, nickel, all of their base metal mines, the majority are owned by the Krupps.
Okay.
He has the rights to all of the monazite deposits in India, and monazite is like a key ingredient in the production of cast steel. He owns the majority of the nickel mines in all of the French Polynesian islands. He owns a large amount of stocks of every single British munitions firm, so like Mauser's German. What's the British one? Vickers, all of them. He owns so many stocks in them that in a few of those firms, he has the controlling interest of shares. He also owns a plurality, not a majority, of the Austrian Skoda Works. And the Skoda Works were the only other European firm that produced weapons close to the quantity of the Krupps. He owned most of that company anyway.
Wow.
In Essen itself, they owned 80 factories alone. These factories used more gas and electricity than the entire city, and that was of the entire city of Essen, and they also used more gas and electricity than the entire city of Berlin at the time. The factory complex had its own fire department, its own police department, its own traffic laws, and it was all enforced by the Krupp police department. So these people are not answerable to anyone outside of the Krupp firm.
Wait, it had its own traffic law. So you enter Essen and be like, oh, guess what? We drove on the left side of the road now.
Yeah.
You
we drive on
idiots.
the left side because that's what Alfred saw in a dream one day.
Yeah. Guess what? You got to stop at a stop sign for 4.2 seconds. Because
And you gotta keep your windows down whenever you're driving. That way you stay cold. Because that's what Gustav wants.
Unless it's the summer,
Yeah.
in which you put on your air conditioning. But yeah, honestly, you have more.
Oh, there's more.
Yeah, keep going. Before
I want the
So-
full brief because we're brokers. We really want a wealth for all of our listeners, so we need to hear all the deets.
I'm definitely
Capiche?
part
Let
of
me
the word broker.
Yeah.
Let me do that. I want the deltas. I want the PE ratios. I want the underovers of monies.
So in the rest of Germany, they controlled an additional dozen or so steel plants. They own the largest shipyard in Germany, and it was one of the 3 largest shipyards in the world at the time, and that was in Kiel. They had myriad, foundries, coal mines, quarries, and other like raw material extraction sites all across Europe. They had 3 private test firing ranges, any one of which was larger than any other in the world.
That's gonna be a little
that
bit of
includes
a demerit.
like the American government.
That's a demerit because I usually look for businesses that have at least 5 firing ranges.
Bigger than any other one in the world. Yeah.
Well, there's more to cover,
well-
Warren Buffet. All right.
Here's what they produced.
I mean, what do you think Zuck is doing in the metaverse? He's setting up firing ranges and putting your profile on the firing range. He's got millions of them.
We're going to connect in the metaverse and learn how to fire an A-10 Warthog.
How to execute your entire community.
Here's what they were producing in terms of raw materials yearly. This is yearly totals. 2 million tons of coal, 800,000 tons of coke, not cocaine, but the coke like iron or coal production. Have you ever heard of that? Coke?
Yeah.
In that frame? It's
like-
COKE, but
Yeah, it's a not fun Coke.
it's like a part of the like carbon steel making process of like extracting carbon, turning it into coke, and then use the coke to make steel.
Okay.
Anyway, they're making 800,000 tons of it a year. Another 100,000 tons of iron ore, 800,000 tons of pig iron, and at this point, they are the largest and wealthiest company in the entire world. They have basically their own military, so really the only other companies in history you could compare them to is something like the East India Company in terms of like global power.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
how big the Krupps are.
So, Tom.
So you investing?
Tom, are we investing?
I don't know.
They're merchants of death.
It all seems
Business
like
never goes out of style.
Well, it's not like if they owned several fast food chains, then I might be more inclined.
Right. See, this is the Shark Tank going on right now. Tom, fast food chains, anything else would you like to add to this business model before you... What do they do? Deal or no deal?
They didn't
on
have
the
an
Shark
app.
Tank.
That's another drawback.
Yeah,
no
like
app.
a church would be good. Keep
Yeah.
these people in line.
They have church.
We're close to cult status here.
They kind of run their own churches in Essen. I mean,
but it does sound very cultish. So
See,
I would
I'm-
say it's a buy. I'm not going heavy into it.
but a buy? All right.
Okay.
Yeah, because I got to give Mark Zuckerberg my money because you reminded me. You should have reminded me.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm going to say the big thing. They're lacking monkeys. Pick JPEGs of monkeys. They can sell to people.
Oh, yeah, no.
Online.
All Gustav's apes gone.
Yeah, they're
unfortunately.
not even making iron apes. They're not making iron apes they can distribute to these markets that'll appreciate in value. So I'm going to have to say, no deal. You're out there with the fucking sprinkler that the last buddy that came into the show brought on. The sprinkler that also does your lawn mowing. Goodbye. Later, you blew it. You're fired.
All right.
I like how you're doing this. I know our people at home are not, or in their cars can't see you right now, but you're wearing a captain's hat.
Yeah,
It's Captain Haddock.
Yeah, you're Captain Haddocking while you're doing this, and it's making me trust you more.
I do.
See?
I inherently trust you more.
Yeah.
Next season of Shark Tank, I'm going to be on. Imagine that.
All right.
I'll be like, that FUBU guy, off the show. I'm on there now. Mark Cuban,
What
also
have you done
off
aside
the
from
show.
FUBU?
Yeah, Mark Cuban also off the show. You're a sandwich.
Well, Trav, I think the next shark might actually be Bertha Krupp because by 1913, she is the wealthiest individual in all of Germany. The second wealthiest individual was estimated to be worth something like 200 million marks, which is the German currency at the time. Bertha is worth a astounding 283 million. And rising because, again, that's 1913.
That's a big gap between the
pretty
two
big
richest
gap.
folks.
Yeah. Now, Gustav, like his hero Alfred, wanted to build a nice, shiny new building to commemorate how great the firm was going. Now, he already had Via Hugel, and they were starting to renovate it. Gustav and Bertha would kind of gut it, make sure the ventilation systems work. They put in wood paneling and like kind of decorated it to make it a proper 20th century estate rather than Alfred's little, mansion of horrors.
Weird cave.
Yeah, his little weird like dimension.
Yeah, how about we use this this hidden pathway here that my skinny dad used to
Yeah, well, we use a little spy
Slither
hole.
through.
Why don't we just shove some insulation in there, just for noise?
Right.
Dude, so we're going from Shark Tank to like one of those restoration shows now. This is perfect.
Yeah, we're going to like Chip and Joanna Gaines territory.
Yeah,
The two
Joanna
twins that
Gaines
make
type.
out and sell houses.
Yeah.
This is
No,
the
they make
Magnolia
out-
Network. We are renovating Via Hugel in the
Yeah,
Essen foothills.
On the Magnolia Network, they're not making out. They're very Christian. They're very respectable. So.
Well, they would come to this. They'd help out.
This is
probably.
respectable.
This is
They're
respectable.
from
These are-
Waco,
these are-
Texas.
Yeah, they probably love Germans.
Yeah, why not?
So what Gustav was planning, though, was a new headquarters for the Krupp firm. So what he built, and this is this is one single German word that I'm going to try and pronounce.
Ooh, they love doing that. They
They
combine
really love
like
it.
8 words.
Yeah, this is the Hauptverwaltungsgebäude, the Chief Administration Building.
That sounded really good for the record.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a very long word.
Yeah.
Which when built, again, author William Manchester, his book I'm reading for all this, said, quote, "It looked like the most depressing and drab building ever conceived by man."
And then wait until those concentration camps start going up. I mean, that's when he changed his tone.
Yeah. No, I looked at a picture of it. It looks like the most Soviet brutalist architecture you've ever seen.
I was going to say, wait until they redo all of the SUNY schools in a brutalist
Go to
style.
Binghamton.
Yeah, go to Binghamton or New Paltz, or not New Paltz, Purchase, and you'll want to kill yourself.
When I went to the WWE production headquarters when I was working with them, that was a building.
Let's talk about
Terrible.
Terrifying?
It was all gated. I think I talked about it on the show a long time ago, but it was, just gated off. It looked like a prison.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, that's where we make happiness.
Well, that's
Vince McMahon's happiness.
at least this prison fitted the fact that they were making death machines, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh, that's scary. I feel like I'm going to die in there. It's like, well, guess what they're building in there?
Funko
Yeah.
Pops.
No, yeah. It's
Pop rocks.
yeah. It fits the theme. It fits. You got an aesthetic, right? You know,
Yeah.
like
It fits the aesthetic of Essen. And of course, it's like this, it's mostly brick, but
Right.
within a month, it's pitch black because it's just covered in soot.
Right, exactly.
Right,
Apparently
so-
in the basement is where they locked the giraffe from Toys R Us.
Vaporwave is out. It's been out. Now we're going to like Steel Wave, which is
Yeah,
going to look like
Steel Wave.
arms dealers from the Krupps. You know.
So, Travis, you were asking about, what are they building aside from arms? Well, Gustav, he was as weird as he was and as bureaucratic as he was, he had
Wait,
some
Connor.
like, prescient vision.
Were they building legs? Whoa!
That's good. That's clever.
5 stars.
No,
right
they were
here.
not building legs. What they were building is
get
Alfred
it.
studied the Russo-Japanese War and goes, I think barbed wire is going to play a big role in the next general European war. Spoiler alert, World War I, look at a picture. Barbed
Very
wires
smart.
everywhere.
It's like confetti.
So
Yeah.
in 1911, 3 years before the outbreak of World War I, Gustav bought the largest wireworks in Germany and began only creating barbed wire.
Right.
So he's in a good position for when that war breaks out.
He's like, guess what? This barbed wire, it can stop not only just cattle, but soldiers.
Yeah.
It's take your pick.
Yeah.
Really. Doesn't work on squirrels too well. They're
No.
small.
All right.
Yeah. Chipmunks, even worse.
Everything else bigger, fine.
It's around this time that he also begins producing diesel engines. Someone that was in the firm came up with a good patent for one and sold it to Krupp. So now Krupp is building diesel engines. He looks at all these diesel engines. He's like, we could actually make this bigger, and then we could make a submarine out of Krupp style and pair it with our diesel engine and all of our torpedo technology. And I think we could have something on our hands. And that's when U-1, the first ever U-boat, is christened, built out of Krupp style.
Did they invent the modern submarine? I don't really know the history of submarines.
No, did not invent the submarine, but the Germans, you could say, definitely perfected it as like a fighting vessel.
Right.
There were first draft submarines in the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, subs were used in the American Civil War.
Yeah.
1-man, 2-man submarines were used.
but
there
those
were
were
one-
those were like barrels with
Right,
a
right.
breathing hole. Like I'm
No,
talking
these-
about like a sub.
A garden hose with a balloon attached to the one end, so you can kind of breathe.
I think the
a bit.
French were the first to ever have bigger submarines as part of their navy, but it was the Germans who really saw it as what could be the backbone of your navy.
Right. Well, very smart. Apparently, people that work in subs right now are being deployed into the Atlantic.
Right.
Keep an eye out on
Just
people that were in
keep
reserves.
an eye on things.
It's
for
getting
10
exciting
years
at the
they're going.
shores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be like 1940 all over again. So not only are they building submarines, they're also building big battleships because Krupp style is the steel that's used to lay down the keels and do the armor plating, and it's Krupp cannons that are now on the decks of all these big ships. So
Well,
they're
these
really
are-
expanding from just cannon to anything that the military can imagine, they're going to make for you.
These are what, dreadnoughts, right? Or is that
This
that's
is
just
a little- yeah, this is-
exclusively British?
Yeah, this is dreadnoughts, and then super dreadnoughts also that they're starting to build.
Why did we change it to battleship and destroyer? Dreadnought sounds so much cooler.
Well, the dreadnought, or we can take this full tangent if you want. The
Yeah,
dreadnought was
I'm
just
fine.
a battleship that was built that was so good that class of battleship just became to be known as dreadnoughts. And when they built another battleship that was even better in it, they made them, that class of battleships was the super battleships, or super dreadnoughts. And the dreadnought,
Uber dreadnought?
Yeah, the dreadnought never actually saw combat because it was like laid down in like the early 1900s and out of service by 1907 or something.
Oh, okay.
So then World War I was fought not with dreadnoughts or super dreadnoughts, but rather the third generation after the dreadnought.
Okay.
I just keep thinking of Bob Marley when you say that every time. I don't know if that's
When I think
just
of
me.
dreadnoughts, though, I always think of Warhammer 40K dreadnoughts because that was the first time I ever heard the word.
Is that a game or?
It's kind of everything.
Yeah, I've seen people with action figures on
Started as a
Twitch.
board game of miniatures.
Yeah.
There's like lore and books made about it, and there's video games.
Shout out to our listener Alec, who's told me all about Warhammer. I don't understand. Anybody speaking another language to me?
Shout out to the God Emperor of the Imperium of Man.
There you go.
Four people are going to understand what that means.
I don't get it.
Well, anyway, the Krupp firm, they're building it all. In 1912, Gustav is like, I want to have a big party to celebrate Alfred's 100th birthday, to celebrate 100 years of Krupp. So he has a 3-day celebration planned. They give a bonus to all of their employees that adds up to a total of 14 million marks being given out to their 100,000 or so employees.
Okay, that's not bad.
That's really
Do you
nice.
think
It's a big bonus.
Do you think they made steel framed glasses with like the 2 zeros and then the 1 here?
Probably.
So, like 100 years of
Yeah.
Krupps.
It costs 100 Krupp bucks.
You're going to have to pay for it. I mean, it comes out of the bonus.
You can build it, and then you can buy it from us. So it's a 3-day celebration in Essen. The entire like Prussian and German elite comes. The Kaiser is there as always. They are planning to finish it off with a medieval joust, like a full-blown wearing armor, horses tilting at each other. And at the last second, so there are pictures of all of this like getting set up, and at the last second, it was called off because in that morning a mine shaft exploded and killed 100 men, and they were like, it would be poor taste to do this joust right
That's
now.
when you joust.
Yeah, so they didn't do the joust, but there's a bunch of pictures
miners.
of it. Yeah.
My God.
Now, all this is happening to the backdrop of the greatest arms race the world has ever seen until the Cold War. This is in the early 1910s. This is like the peak of the naval race between Germany and England. All the treaties and secret treaties that are going to come to play a big role when World War I breaks out. Now, there are hundreds, thousands of reasons why World War I happens, but one worth mentioning here for our story is that, one, the Krupps obviously played maybe the driving role in the arms race. They kind of created what an arms race is.
Right. We went over that with the previous Krupp.
With Alfred, yeah.
Alfred.
And also, the Germans of this generation were being brought up on the stories of 1870, where, the Krupp cannons were superior to the French. The German tactics were superior to the French. So all the Germans are kind of drinking the Kool-Aid of, no, we're the superior people.
Right.
It sounds very set-up-y.
Kind of very set-up-y. Well,
Yeah,
it's like if you raise a whole generation of kids to think that their country is so much better than any other, they're going to get a little bellicose and want to fight someone about it.
Yeah. It's like, I'm dribbling my basketball down the court. Oh, wow, there's number Hitler over there. Let me just pass it to number Aryan Man in the corner. Slam dunk.
Yeah, there's got to be, you really need balance. I've always been a big supporter of shame. You have to shame people into understanding that they're disgusting pigs.
Yeah.
But then also in the same breath, let them know that they're slightly better.
Right.
You don't want them to feel like they need to go to war for their pride, because the idea is by the time they can fight, you've smothered it out of them.
Right.
Well,
But you still want them to think that they're better than the stinking Canadians, or something like that.
yeah, Tom, I feel like that's very aligned with, Tom mentioned that he's our token Jew on the show. But that's also kind of...
I don't remember that.
Yeah. That's also aligned with lazy Catholicism.
I'm no longer the Jew on the show because the last episode we had my sister on, who just smells so much more Jewish than I am. And it's just what am I? I'm dropping that shtick.
You're dropping it?
I might drop one K word in the future, but that's it.
All right. So Gustav, rather, would continue Der Firma's practice of drumming up war fever and selling to the Reich's potential enemies. So they're still selling to Russia, still trying to sell to France and England, but not too successful.
Right.
And of course,
Connor,
selling to like Italy and all of them.
I was going to ask the question. So they've got their dick in like the Vickers gun and like
Yeah.
British gun making. Like, that isn't that like kind of like a conflict of interest? Are they like trying to sabotage like Vicker and
Talk a lot about that soon.
Okay.
So-
You are asking a lot of hot
You're very
questions.
prescient, Travis.
Yeah, no, I'm using my brain. I'm like when China involves, they're going to invades. They're going to Seattle first to cut
Have
off
you
the
been
shipping
consuming the
lanes.
spice? See in the future.
Travis, have a drink.
Yeah,
Now, in this period, like 1909, 1910, there's a big scandal that involves the Krupp firm. It was revealed that agents of the Krupp firm were bribing German military officials in Berlin for information. They would leak that information to the French government and French military leaders. The French government and military leaders would lose their minds and be like, oh shit, Germany's about to attack us. We need to order a bunch of like new guns and new stuff from our supplier, not from Krupp, because he didn't sell much to the French. But then those same Krupp agents would go back to Germany and say, look at all of the shit the French are buying. You need to buy more from us.
Why did he go steal the information from the Germans? Why didn't he just make it up? Because then he could have avoided being under any, just spread a rumor or two.
Well, that didn't work for them. They wanted the real thing. So they were selling the German military secrets to the French.
BuzzFeed didn't exist until, I don't know, 15 years ago. So
Look, we've seen yellow journalism before this point. You can have yellow spying.
yeah, but it reaches its height at BuzzFeed. They just make up shit as they go on. Are they even around anymore? I never even see BuzzFeed.
I don't know.
Maybe they're, I don't know, Daily Beast. I can't believe that's a legitimate source.
Daily
The
Beast.
Daily Beast.
That's the thing.
Who
You
fuck
just
calls
use
their
I
name
can't
that?
you use the term I can't believe that's a legitimate source. You don't have to believe it because they're not a legitimate source.
It's true. But they do inside reporting nowadays. That's what we get. The Daily Beast is giving us legitimate journalism.
I just read Fox News backwards.
Oh, that's smart.
I read it in the
that's
mirror.
cool.
Yeah.
And then what that does to my brain is makes me think.
There you go.
Makes you think, dude.
yeah.
Makes you get deep, dude.
Yeah. Getting the facts I want.
Now, you guys were expressing concern, why are they doing this? Why are they risking it? Why are they actually stealing the secrets? Well, it didn't matter
My
to them.
concern comes from the dirty game could have been played scot-free.
Well, it didn't matter because here were the consequences for the Krupp firm for basically committing treason.
Okay.
The military officers themselves were jailed for only 6 months.
Cute.
And a small number of Krupp agents and officials were given shorter jail sentences, or in most cases, just given a small fine.
Right. So it's kind of the situation where Edward Snowden needs to flee the country and live in Russia, but Steve Bannon and Oliver and John Stone, Oliver Stone,
Oliver Wood. You mean the military colonel in the Iran Contra affair?
Yeah, or who's
Oliver
the
North?
Stone,
Oliver North, that's
Stone
who it
guy?
And you're talking about
Peter
Stone.
Peter North. Yeah,
You're talking about
Peter
Roger.
North.
You're talking about Roger Stone
Roger Stone
over there.
I'm talking
And
about
Peter
Oliver
North.
North.
You're talking about Oliver North.
And Peter
I'm going to
North.
say this has been a wash.
Yeah,
This one. Yes.
I'm just saying they get nothing.
The war scare is so prevalent at this time that Germany had been crafting their secret war plans for what to happen when they inevitably get into war with both Russia and France at the same time. This is famous. It's called the Schlieffen Plan, created by, I forget his first name, General Schlieffen of the German General Staff. The idea was the Russians are going to take a long time to mobilize, so we'll beat the French first, and then we'll fight the Russians. How do we beat the French first? Well, one simple trick: invade through neutral Belgium. It'll be an undefended border on both sides, and we just swoop down to Paris. War's over. Now we can focus on the Russians. That's the short of it.
I remember listening to about 12 hours of Dan Carlin talk about the von Schlieffen plan, but I don't
my
remember
God.
anything about it. But he
So good.
sounds really nice.
Yeah. Now, the hinge point, going through Belgium, one big problem that comes up in the 1890s and early 1900s is the Belgians kind of recognize, like, all right, we're basically just a doorstop between Germany and France. Someone's going to invade through us. So how do we make ourselves look unappealing to invade when we're such a small country? Let's build a big fortress. And what do? They build a super fortress around the city of Liège. It's a series of like 15 to 20 forts that each of fort is like 6 or 7 stories tall, but the bottom 5 to 6 stories are underground. There's elevator systems that can bring cannons up into little firing ranges. They shoot out of these little holes and then go back into the ground where they can be hidden. Each of these fortresses, like a mini city, can host like 10,000 men.
Wow.
It has machine gun posts, and it's just all surrounding this one city that has like a dominating view of the surrounding countryside for like 60 miles.
Now, you're talking about Belgium here, so I know that this happened, because you're not going to go into detail, but for some reason, it feels like one of those like fever dreams where this didn't actually happen.
Right? Like Belgium is a super fortress. What are you talking about?
This is what Belgium's going to do. They're going to build a big old 10,000 people ready to go.
It's the whole country.
Dripping in chocolate, ready to shoot out of elevated
They call them
cannons.
chocolate soldiers. That's what the Germans referred to them as.
Oh, my gosh.
They were like, these are just chocolate soldiers. We'll brush them off.
Yeah, soon to be little Tintins.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, obviously,
sounds too good.
Because it's this time and these fortresses are massive, everyone knows about it. So even the German general staff knows that these fortresses exist. One of the German generals, Erich von Ludendorff, who would lead this campaign, he would spend his summer vacations in this countryside to scout, basically. So for like 10 years before World War I breaks out, he was spending his springs and summers in the Belgian countryside being like, oh, well, that path there, we can lead a division down. We can put cannon here. They'll be able to reach to these places. And they're kind of all planning for this war that they know is coming.
That's
All of Europe is doing this, by the way. It's not just Germans.
That's such a sneaky German thing to do.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What are you doing in Belgium?
I love to go to Belgium. We have the beautiful countryside. I drink the wine chocolate.
Yeah, right. Don't
I
mind
plan
me
my
and my
plan
wife
conquest.
and my 2 kids who are wearing Von Dutch hats. Don't worry about them. We're just looking at the different trees in the area.
By the way, do you have an extensive map system of all the roads and rail yards?
Yeah.
We're trying to go to what is the best place to eat in the area. I heard that there's a McDonald's inside of one of these forts. That is a must go. Every time the French fries are good.
Yeah.
Das is just my casual surveying equipment.
Yeah. I also went very Swedish for a blatantly German man.
Well,
So
I mean, it sounds like you were like he was pretending to be Belgian in your scenario.
Trying to get along.
There you go.
Maybe if that
It's more
McDonald's
Dutch than
isn't
Belgian.
open, you can point us to the nearest Checkers for our holiday vacation in the Belgium countryside.
What the fuck's Checkers? It's rallies, bitch.
No, this is up north, okay? Here we're having Checkers, and they're having delicious fries for us to have. Okay? Thank you.
The German general staff is aware of this problem. They're aware of all these bunkers, aware of these big fortresses that are buried deep within the earth. And they kind of like, all right, how are we going to march our army? Because this needs to happen quick. We need to get right through Liège in order to invade France. So what are we going to do? Well, let's go to the armory of the Reich. Let's go to De Firma and see what they can come up with. So they go to Krupp. They're like, hey, we need you to just find out how we can destroy these fortresses, and they need to be destroyed quickly. So what can we do? Again, this is in peacetime. This is all happening. So Krupp comes up with a gun. Well, not him, but one of his artillery people that he had assigned to it. And by the way, when I'm saying Krupp as a person, that's Gustav now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. The old
Just to
name
clarify.
change, yeah.
So here's what they come up with. And they build 2 of these guns to have at the start of the war. It's a 17-inch howitzer. The 17 inches refers to the diameter of the barrel.
Size
So
of
it's
his penis.
A foot and a half long is the barrel. So that's how wide the shells are that are going into this.
Jesus.
It's more powerful than any artillery cannon ever made. It required 200 different specialists to make the whole thing work. And it fired an armor-piercing delay action shell, and it had a range of nearly 10 miles. Now, the delay action and armor-piercing means that, in theory, when it goes into the fort, the shell will continue to go into the deeper levels, and then maybe 30 seconds to a minute later, that's when it will explode.
It's not exploding on impact.
It's not exploding on impact.
Meant
It's not
to penetrate
exploding
and then explode.
in the air, which is another thing that Krupp had perfected, was airburst shells. That was something else Krupp did.
It's a huge waste.
Is this
Airburst shells really good against infantry, not
Yeah.
good against a fort.
right?
is this what they colloquially? I hate that word.
It's a bad word.
Call.
I don't think that word's never been said properly on the show. Don't you start, Connor?
Colloquial. What were we talking about?
Colloquially.
Yeah, is that what they call bunker busters?
They could be called bunker busters, but the German troops gave them a different name. Both of these guns were called Big Bertha.
Big Bertha, baby.
Big Bertha, after one Bertha Krupp.
And those big old milkers sitting in front of the piano. Sorry, guys, I messed up this Wagner song because my tits got in the way.
Yeah. Now, the guns were ready just in the nick of time. They were finished and completed and finished their firing trials in the early summer of 1914, also known as the summer that the world went mad, because that's when the Archduke is assassinated, war breaks out all over across Europe. Germany's fighting Russia, they're fighting Belgium, they're fighting England, and they're fighting France. And it's all happening right at the beginning. Now, we can probably imagine Gustav felt a lot like his hero Alfred at this time, when Alfred was in 1870, you know? It's his guns that have armed the Reich. He knows a lot is riding on what he has done. He's nervous, he's excited, and more importantly, just like Alfred, he's preoccupied with what's going on at Villehugel, because remember, Villehugel is being built when war broke out in 1870, and it's undergoing major renovations in 1914 as war breaks out.
Right, so when war broke out the last time, he was like, our boy Alfred was like, hey, French people, can you give me the marble or something, right?
Yeah, you need the limestone from the Paris quarries. So he doesn't need the Paris wood, but he is living in like the shack next door because the whole house is gutted. So it's just like a weird coincidence that both of them were undergoing major renovations of their homes when war breaks out with Germany.
It's hard, you know. My father is a contractor, and these rich people, they're like, I've never felt so much pressure in my life. I can't use my kitchen for 2 weeks. These people are out of their minds. Could you imagine a guy who builds weapons for a living?
Yeah.
There's a war happening, and he still can't use a fucking microwave?
He must be insane.
They don't even use their kitchens. They have their kitchen staff use the kitchen.
You mean to tell me I can't catch my kitchen staff fucking because I have to live somewhere else?
Yeah.
My God. You mean I can't throw this almost expired cranberry juice out? I have to wait?
So you know
because there's a drop cloth in front of my Viking refrigerator?
I can't make everyone cold.
The Super Bowl just happened, and like there's, you know, they have those things where it's like, we went to the fucking Pittsburgh Zoo, and the fucking our zoo mole will guess the team that wins. Like, is that what you just have to do with Castle Hugel? Like, is it doing renovations? Will the world go to war?
Yeah. Well, I wonder, like, if they ever did renovations again after, where they're like, is war going to break out? I haven't gotten to 1939 yet, so I wonder if in 1939
we're gonna see.
If they're also going renovation.
It's a scene at the end of Jumanji when the two kids' parents are like, "We're gonna go skiing," and Robin Williams and the blonde bitch are like, "No, no."
Are they going to do? Are they doing like restorations right now in 2022? Are we going to find out? Is the world going to go to war? Maybe. We'll see.
We'll see.
God save us from that paint job.
Yeah. So for those who don't know about World War I, whereas World War II kind of builds to a crescendo, or it's like the last months of the war is the most intense fighting, World War I's the reverse. The most intense fighting and the majority of the casualties happen in the first 2 months because that's when everyone's moving about. And
well, it's also because they didn't know what they were fighting.
They also didn't know
the French,
what they were doing.
The French were walking into battle wearing like leopard skins.
Yeah. They're wearing red pants, white gloves, and bright blue shirts.
It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
That really is a cool
They
look.
were marching in column, singing songs as the Germans, who are in gray uniforms wearing coal helmets, were just manning machine guns.
Those fuckers couldn't carry a tune if it's to save their life. They just saw 1, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Yeah. They're Gustav in their way around.
Guys, like, let's go get killed, please.
There's one guy going. And
the only reason he's there is because he's late.
Mm-hmm.
So the scale of the war, the ferocity of the war, right off the bat, shocks all the nations of Europe. Thousands and thousands are dead. I think 1 million die within the first month of fighting.
Jeez.
And like in one day, I know 90,000 Frenchmen were killed in a single battle in one day. So it's heinous shit. Germany is moving through Belgium. They're a little ahead of schedule, and then they get to the super fortress city of Liège with the massive fortresses. They first try to just do it the old-fashioned way, not working. These Belgian chocolate soldiers are much stronger than they expected. So it's time to call in the Big Berthas. Gotta see if these are worth the investment.
I've seen some photos, and I think this might have been from the Second World War, actually, but was Big Bertha, like, rolled out on rail? Because I know they had the Germans had those big rail guns that, like, they literally had to lay down, railroad track to move this gun because it was so big.
They had to be moved on rail. I think the ones you're thinking of is later in the war and in World War II, the Krupps would develop guns that rather than transported by rail, then moved to where they needed to shoot, and then shooting, they would just transport by rail, and then they would fire on the railway. That way the recoil would just be like sliding back on the rails rather than like having to, what they did with the Big Berthas, which is they had to basically build a foundation, put them in the foundation, they would seal it all up, it would fire, the foundation would shatter and crack, rebuild the foundation, fire the second round.
That's fucking insane.
Yeah, but it was the only way to use these guns. Moving them proved way harder than they thought, especially because the Belgians had blown a bunch of tunnels and bridges. So the last 11 miles they moved on road using a mix of cattle and manpower. So like horse teams and oxen teams are transporting these super weapons across the Belgian countryside.
Once they're in place, saves the day again. Horse
is saving the day. And maybe, the horse manure, like the smell of it, the Krupp steel, the steel itself was getting Alfred's, juice going.
I was just talking with my father-in-law. Apparently, they would have been much better off with donkeys.
Probably.
Donkeys can pull more than horses, but they just can't go as fast.
Well, donkeys are just like inbred retarded horses.
They are. Well, they're mares and
jackasses. Yeah. So, takes a long time to finally get them into place. It actually is a 2-day delay, and people actually will say that 2-day delay may have caused the Germans to lose the war, because if they're just a little bit faster, they might have taken Paris within the first month.
Gustav must have been so pissed. He's just like, what have I been telling you about time?
It's way more in hindsight that people are like, all right, yeah, I know, but this probably drove him fucking insane.
Yeah, it's just like, time. We were late, and that's why we lost?
Yeah.
Can you kill me?
Everyone's lunch got skipped in Essen. Sorry, no lunch. No lunch for the rest of the week, you idiot.
You're late.
My God.
Now, let's go over what it took to just fire these guns. As I said, they had to build the foundations. It took a ton of time to get them there. Once they're finally assembled, the firing team has to prepare these yard-long shells. So they're 3 feet wide by 1.5 feet long, or 3 feet long, 1.5 feet wide. They have to wear special padding all across their bodies to protect their vital organs from the shockwave of the cannon firing.
Woo.
Otherwise, they would rupture all their internal organs. They had to lay down on the ground 300 yards away, and they also stuffed cotton into their ears, or else they would all go deaf just from the firing of the gun.
300 yards away, and they still have to wear that gear?
Yeah. 300 yards.
God.
Yeah. When the shell was finally fired, it rose nearly a mile into the sky. It would take a full minute for it to take its full arc up and then down. And the first one was fired into the Fort Pontis. It buried itself deep within the structure, and one shell, no more fort. They were that good.
Damn.
Instantly, vaporized the whole thing, sunk the fort down to its foundations, all the Belgians inside, dead. That's how good these guns were.
That is insane.
Yeah.
Do you know, was this used on Fort Duvaux?
Is that a fort in Liège?
It was I think it was in France.
Is it in Verdun?
Yeah.
Not these ones. These cannons are used basically only for this Battle of Liège, because they're short mortars, basically.
Okay. So they can only move them so far.
Yeah, they can only move them so far. They have a long range, but it's just not like feasible for like a battle like Verdun. It's more for like a siege.
Right.
And over the next 48 hours, every single fort surrounding the city would meet this exact same fate. Here's what one Belgian defender who was inside the city, so not in any of the forts, recalled seeing it, because you could see it happen on the horizon, basically. Here's his quote. "The metal monster advanced in 2 parts. The ground trembled. The crowd remained mute with consternation. The monster was carefully mounted and scrupulously aimed. Then came the frightful explosion. The crowd was flung back. The earth shook as if there had been an earthquake, and all the window panes in the neighborhood were shattered." And that's in the city, so like a mile away from the fort itself. That's what's happening because of these explosions.
God damn.
Liège is taken. The German army rolls through, thanks to Krupp's cannons. But, you know, their big plan to end the war within a month does not happen. But Gustav, for his efforts, is going to be awarded the Iron Cross First Class. This is one of the highest honors the German military could bestow. Now, just for reference, a different German would receive the Iron Cross First Class, and this is what they had to do to get this award. They fought for 4 years in the trenches. They were wounded grievously twice, and in one combat, they single-handedly captured 15 enemy soldiers. Who was that person? Adolf Hitler. That's how Adolf Hitler won his Iron Cross. Gustav just built a bunch of cannons.
What's harder, really?
Right.
You know, what is hard? Like, the cannon is just big. It's very big.
It's very big.
But Hitler may have been awarded his Iron Cross for painting pictures of cats and buildings.
Yeah.
We just don't know. He was denied from the art school, but he could have been painting on the front line.
He might have.
That's true. Yeah. Who really
He was designing posters for the trenches.
He was designing the original memes.
cheering up the
Thank you.
troops, making fun of the chocolate soldiers?
Yep. So the war obviously did not end in 1914, but Gustav is in full-blown war fever. He's already drawn up plans for a new world order once the inevitable German victory that he's envisioning happens.
Whoa, society's not a
inevitable
big gun, man. You know? Like,
Yeah.
slow down.
This is one of his letters. I think it was to the Kaiser. Quote, "German culture and civilization will direct the progress of humanity. To fight and conquer for such a goal is worth the price of noble blood." Kind of giving away his 1930s endgame here. So obviously the war is a big boom to a weapons manufacturer. Immediately,
Right.
Krupp firm doubles their number of employees, basically overnight. They're now employing some 20,000 women. Women, of all people.
What were they doing?
Whoa.
Working in the factories. The men had to go to the front.
They're making those hard-boiled eggs for Essen.
Yeah, it's not Rosie the Riveter, but it's
Gertrude
the Croupineer, I guess.
Yeah, something like that.
No, I mean, one of the things that I think is so interesting, I mean, it's interesting and terrifying about World War I, and I feel like a lot of these ordnance probably came from Krupps or was fired by Krupps, is that, like, you can still, like, they're still exploding ordnance today from World War I and World War II, but even
Mostly
World War
I.
I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly World War I because it's the same battlefield for the next 4 years. That's the
Yeah.
scariest part. Is like the front line didn't move.
Over 100 years of like that's how much ordnance was
something
fired.
like as late as like the early 2000s. On average, 5 French farmers were dying a year to World War I ordnance exploding on their farms. Like
That's
5 a year.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's really insane to think about.
To really drive that home, here's the Krupp firm's production numbers in the first couple of years of the war. So the first year, don't have the specific numbers because it was just like the short last few months in 1914. But in 1915, they're producing 8 million shells a year. By 1916, Die Firma was sending out 9 million shells and 3,000 artillery pieces every single month.
Holy fuck.
So 36 million artillery rounds in the year. And that would
That's like
only increase until 1918.
That's like a Bezos or Zuck amount of artillery.
Yeah. It's crazy. Now, Travis, you had mentioned isn't that a conflict of interest with his Vickers patent agreements?
Right, because that's what's killing your Germans or the Vickers guns.
Well, if you find any of those British shells that's still stuck in the French and Belgian mud and countryside, you'll probably see on the side of it, it'll have an imprint with the letters and numbers KPZ 96/04. KPZ stands for Krupp. The 9604 stands for the 1896 and 1904 patent agreements that Krupp had made with Vickers, and these agreements would stay throughout the war.
Oh,
and
shit.
Even though the government said, stop printing that and, like, don't give the other firm money, because also, like, Krupp owned some Vickers patents so that he owed him some money, both firms secretly kept a running log of how much the other firm was using their patents, so that when the war finally ended, the Krupp firm and the Vickers firm kind of compared numbers and were like, all right, you owe us this much money.
Right, so he was making
for
money
murdering German soldiers.
Yeah, he was making money from not only the Germans, but he was making money from the British.
Yep.
Jeez.
It was Krupp would estimate that Vickers owed him 60 marks for every single dead German soldier. That was the rate it worked out to.
It's a lot of money. A lot of scratch.
Also, another little side note about the Vickers gun was, it was a water-cooled barrel, so they'd fill it up with water, right? If they ran out of water, you'd fill it with piss.
Mm.
Oh, so, yeah, I remember hearing about that. The piss guns.
The piss guns.
Yeah, it's a piss gun, pretty much.
It's pretty hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was also during the war that the horrors of Nazism could start to be seen in Germany, because Krupp and some of his buddies went to the Kaiser and other German military leaders and were like, hey, you keep conscripting young men for the front. We're putting in older men in the workforce, putting women in the workforce. It's not enough. How about you just round up a bunch of Belgian civilians that we can just shove in the factories and not pay? And they go, great idea. Slave labor. Why didn't we think of that? So the concentration camps, Gustav is kind of like forming his own little proto-concentration camp with Belgian civilians at this time.
Hey, I mean, what? They were the Second Reich. I mean, the Romans loved slave labor.
Yeah. Now, it was Krupp Steel, like I said, producing all the U-boats, and that's dragging in the U.S. into this war. And we're not going to go too much into World War I because it drags, it's back and forth, it all stays stagnant. All we need to know for the Krupp firm is that they make a boatload of money from it.
We've talked about World War I. I'm sure we'll talk about World War I in the future when we talk about other generals and things like that. We don't need to go into deets on this one.
Yeah. And also, so we'll skipping towards the end of the war. In World War II, basically by 1942, everyone knew the Allies are going to win the war. It's just, what's that victory going to look like? World War I, very different. Even by 1918, the Germans had a chance to win. In the spring, they launched these massive offensives that they hope, because also Russia's out of the war by this point, America's still just kind of finding their power, so Germany can win it before too many Americans come. And these spring offensives give one last chance for the Krupp firm to show what they are capable of, because they're getting close to Paris again. And they're about 80-something miles from Paris, so not in range of any guns. And then all of a sudden, one day, French people start hearing weird sounds, and things start exploding in Paris. And no one knows why. Because they're not in range, there are no planes flying overhead, so what's doing this? There is rumors that they had smuggled a single gun 10 miles outside the city, and were just it was a small team of 20 dudes doing it by themselves. There are other rumors that it was saboteurs. The truth wouldn't come out until after the war, because what was happening is the Krupps had built what they called the Paris Cannon, which had a range of over 80 miles.
Shit!
So they were 80 miles from the French capital. They would fire these shells. These shells were specifically designed for the cannons, and the barrels of the cannons were so big, and the power it took to fire these shells was so weird that the barrel would expand every time it fired.
Wow. It got that hot?
It got that hot that it would expand, so that each shell was numbered 1 through 67 or whatever, because each shell was specifically designed to accommodate the widening of the barrel. So you had to fire all these shells in order. And then once it fired 70-something shells, you replace the barrel and you get a new round of shells in.
Why? So why do the Germans always come out with the technology that will ultimately win the war at the very last moment? Because in World War II,
They came up with jet fighters.
Yeah, they discovered how to do jet fighters and fucking rocket-propelled grenades, or not rocket-propelled grenades, rockets, right? Like,
rockets, just straight rockets.
Tomahawk rocket, like the V2 rocket, right?
Yep. Well, these shells, they would fly 26 miles into the air. It's believed that these were the first ever man-made objects to reach the ionosphere of the Earth, which is pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah.
However, the shelling itself, kind of useless because it wasn't accurate at all. It could hit Paris. It couldn't hit a part of Paris.
Right.
So they're just
downtown.
they're indiscriminately shelling Paris. One shell one day would kill nobody. It would just like wound a couple of ducks in the park. And then the next day it would hit a church during Sunday Mass and kill 120 people.
Right. Oh no, Pierre's orange stand is gone. What will we miss? Taking oranges down in the Rue Bordello.
Well, if you go to the other Pierre's orange stand.
Yeah. Now the war is not going well for Germany. The Paris Cannon doesn't drive the French to surrender. If anything, it just enraged the entire world that Germany is a bunch of bloodlusted maniacs that needs to be destroyed. The offensives of the spring peter out over the summer, and by late summer, the Allies have now started to push back all the German advances. Germany is retreating like crazy. Huge amounts of units are surrendering. There's political discontent. And basically, to everybody, except two people, the war is going bad for Germany. Those two people, the Kaiser and Gustav Krupp, they still believe that, no, victory is right around the corner.
Well, the Kaiser's out of his mind.
Out of his mind.
And Krupp's making so much money that it all looks good on
he's
paper.
Blind to the figures, and also he's such a servile dude that he sees the Kaiser say we're going to win, so he's like, oh, yeah, we're going to win.
Yeah,
the Kaiser
we're going to win.
In September of 1918, the German army is basically collapsing, and even the Kaiser starts to realize how bad it's gotten. At one point, he comes to visit the Krupp works and kind of tries to like rally the men of the Krupp workers, and it's the first time that he gets like an icy reception from the workers. They basically booed him, and this is a guy who had like life or death over them, so it's this huge humbling experience where all the Krupps kind of just like the Krupp workers basically laugh him out of the factory.
Right.
And it's like this big humiliation.
So it's like when Bezos originally opened up a fulfillment center in a town that's kind of dead.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, fucking Amazon Fulfillment Center.
Right.
And like if he showed up now and they're like, oh, boo, get out of here, you fucking idiot.
The German military might's collapsing. Political situation's also collapsing. In late October, they start secretly sending out feelers for an armistice with the Allies. This is all kind of comes together very quickly. And Gustav's still holding out hope that maybe we can win because, again, in World War I, Germany, not a single battle was fought on German soil. The Germans invaded France, pushed them back, and for 4 years the war is fought on French and Belgian soil.
Right, and it didn't move that much either.
Yeah, and that's why it kind of gives into this like whole stabbed in the back theory that we're going to talk about later of like, well, the German army never retreated. How did they lose the war? Well, they lost the war because they were running out of food. But Gustav still doesn't think that. They think they're going to keep going. And then the Kaiser doesn't fully abdicate, but kind of like flees the country in early November. So there's a provisional government running everything. And then in November 8th, something unthinkable happens. Orders come from Berlin that all military contracts and purchase orders have been canceled. We're not buying anything else from you anymore. And then the craziest thing of all happens. On November 9th, for the first time in over 110 years, the Krupp Steelworks go silent. Nothing's being produced in Essen. All the Kruppier are staying home. No one's going on to the factory floor. Reportedly, it's like 2 days late. So 2 days later is November 11th. That's the armistice day. The war is over. And it's reportedly either on that day or the next day that the soot and smoke and smog that had been hovering over the city for years and decades floats away in the wind, and they see sunshine for the first time.
Goes a long way.
There are blue skies over the country, over the factories for the first time.
Did that make one of the Kruppineers go, oh wait, maybe I am doing something fucking terrible?
Hey, you know, I want to make art.
What is that color?
I want to go read books.
I thought the sky was this brown, green, gray shit.
One day that'll happen in Beijing or Wuhan. They'll see the light.
So
I don't know.
maybe.
They're going to destroy the sun before they...
But the Krupp works go silent. There are no hammers there's nothing being forged in the city. But that will not be the end of the Krupps. We're going to pick up this story in part 2, where they rearm the German Reich and will once again lead the German people into a war that they believe they're going to win quickly. And that's part 1 of Gustav.
It's pretty heavy, this topic. This Krupp shit is... I really like this format where we're covering a bigger chunk of history.
Yeah.
It's painting a fantastic picture. One thought I had was, if you, like, from what you're telling me about this Krupp thing, you know how, like, after World War I, Germany was just, like, desolate with the debt that they were given from all the other countries. They had that treaty.
All the reparations.
They paid that off in, like, 2010, too, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but after World War II, they made it so that couldn't happen anymore.
Yeah, that's why they did the Marshall Plan.
The Marshall Plan, right. But it's like, I'm not surprised that they did this because of how much money was actually going into Germany.
Yeah.
Because, like, you got to think, the Versailles thing was like, hey, you got to pay us all back now. All this debt. It made sense if you know about this Krupp thing.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't know that, like, this isn't taught in schools. So, like, you're taught, Germany was destroyed by debt, and that's why they started this whole, like, World War II, Third Reich thing. It's like, oh, this makes sense, actually. Their debt was, like, acquired because they had taken so much money from people, but it was all privatized.
Yeah, right. He was double dealing. I mean, he was making money off of the Allies, the British, and the Germans.
Yeah, one of the first things we talk about in part 2 is, like, how Krupp and Vickers settled their dispute of, like, who owes who what from the war that just happened that killed a couple million people on each side. Who owes who money?
Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
That's what they're already trying to figure out with Ukraine.
Yep. And, we'll see what the Krupp firm, how they adapt to this quote-unquote disarmed Germany. Gustav's not going to stand for that. And we'll see... Is it the politicians that were driving rearmament in Germany, or was it Krupp himself who created all the plans for it?
Oh, so next week we're going to talk about stormtroopers and not Star Wars stormtroopers.
Nope, the scary kind.
Scary kind.
Talk about all the different 2-letter abbreviations like the SA, the SS, all that.
All the fun ones.
Oh, yeah.
All the scary ones, the boogeymen's.
Yep.
Yeah, this isn't your Disney here. There's no stormtrooper that's all in silver and fights the good Black Han Solo in the new series. It's just mean men.
Yeah, it's the actual Nazis. It's come full circle.
Yeah.
They're like, George Lucas is like,
No, instead we're going actual Nazis now.
Yeah. He's like, let me make these spacemen out of porcelain look like Nazis. And now everyone's just like, I love Disney and I want to punch a Nazi in the face.
Yep.
It's like, you've never even seen one.
Don't even know. They just wear brown shirts, dog.
They're real ones dressed better than you, not these fat guys down south that try to get
they
internet
look good.
points.
They're dressed. What was
Hugo Boss?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, Hugo Boss, one of my favorites.
Hug your boss. That's
Hug
really
your boss.
Hug your boss. That's they sold it that way.
Dude, the fashion world loves Nazis. Coco
They
Chanel,
do.
Hugo Boss.
I can't believe it. Every Nazi was gay. I'm putting it on the record now. Okay, guys. Good episode tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Had a great time with this one.
Continue the story of Gustav and Bertha. They meet a lovely young Bavarian man that will play a big role in their family life.
All right.
Oh, Big
Very
Bertha,
nice.
Big Bavaria.
Just one little note on Big Bertha. She reportedly did not like that nickname that the guns were called.
I wouldn't either. She just never heard that Louis Prima song. There's a Louis Prima song where he talks about how his woman is as big as a house, a 2-family house with a fence, and I love that. So it's so much fun. It's so jovial. She's like, "Hey, I'm Big Bertha. There's more to love. Why not?"
Yeah.
Do you think Enola thought it was nice when people called her gay, and then they nuked a Japanese city in the Enola Gay?
Right.
Come on.
Yeah. Think about that.
Think about
Think about it. I also listen to that Scooter song. It always goes back to a song at the end of the day. And with that, I'll say goodbye. I like the family. The Von... Who's
The
it?
Von Trapps?
Von Trapps.
The Von
yeah.
Krupps?
Traps.
Yeah, guys,
Hello, goodbye. Hello, goodbye. The bees are scary. The trees are scary. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.
All right, awesome. Patreon.com/RoastMortemCast. Social medias, things like that. Thanks to the script, Connor. Travis, you're looking good today. You're looking sharp.
I'm going to give you a traditional German goodbye. Dankum schön.
Danke.
Well, we had the warm-up. We spoke to each other.
Yeah, vocal cords are feeling loose.
Yeah.
La 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 la.
You sound good. Hey, Travis, let's start this show by talking about a show you were just on. Firstly, welcome to Roast Mortem. But secondly, Travis, get into it.
I was on the Drink a Beer, Play a Game podcast. So much fun. Hanging out with Jim, Brian. We were talking about, I was screaming about Battlefield because well, not screaming. I'm very well composed. Trust me, you guys, you don't need to watch me. You guys don't need to monitor me when I'm on other shows. I'd scream. I was a gentleman.
Is there a video format of that podcast you were just on?
There is, yeah.
Oh.
I haven't watched the video yet, but I'm sure that I've probably come close to picking my nose because I just kind of do that.
Do a little
sometimes.
scratch. Yeah.
Yeah. Or some I just gone right in there, right up there.
Can I ask what beer you drank? Or is that something secret for the show?
Yeah, I don't know if I should spoil. Well, technically, this will be last week's episode of Drink a Beer, Play a Game. That if you go back to the previous week, and I'll be on there. I was drinking. I decided to get some of the Portland local brewery things, and one of them was a German Pils, perfectly fine. The other one I picked up because I saw wheat beer. I was like, oh, this would be like Hoegaarden, nice. And I didn't turn the can around, and it had pink guava and banana shit in it.
Nice. I'm a fruit guy.
I thought you were going to say it was a wheat-free beer. Like you got the omission, gluten-free.
Oh, right. I paid $13 for 6 ounces of piss.
Wow.
Well, I started listening to it, and those guys sound nice, and you sound like you had a fun time. But I just want to be I could never be on that show.
Well, you don't play games.
Not only
you don't fuck around. You
Exactly.
don't fuck around. You don't play games.
Exactly. I couldn't.
You know what I'm saying?
I would.
I know you play. I know you play video games from time to time, but you're not playing games.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. So those guys sound nice. So I would hate to sully their
Just not for you.
show with a charlatan like myself.
There you go.
Someone who has nothing nice to say about video games at all. Connor, how was your week?
Well, it's only been a few days since we recorded, but
Thank you for
I
ruining
did
that
have
illusion.
a very monumental thing happen in those 2 days.
Woo!
I ate Popeyes for the first time.
Wow.
Whoa!
I know. I'm upset Mike isn't here to join in this moment. He would have a lot of questions and comments, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's really the fast food connoisseur of the show, and
I know. This is really his domain, his wheelhouse.
Yeah, I thought the Roman Catholic churches on the South Shore gave that out every Sunday. And you were there for quite some time. You lived in Babylon for a bit.
Right.
But you're not a Roman Catholic.
Yeah. The time in my life when I was going to Roman Catholic church, so up till the second grade, I guess, North Shore. So,
Right.
no,
Low carb wafers.
yeah.
right. You were getting the
Exactly.
wafers, not the popcorn.
Not the
shrimp.
Popeyes. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay, I got a chicken sandwich.
Okay.
It's delicious. Really, really good. Had some of Lizzie's chicken nuggets. They were also, or chicken tendies, yes.
Okay.
Delicious. Fries were average. Nothing amazing.
If there was something you could change about your meal, what would it be?
All right. One, I wish I got 2 sandwiches instead of a sandwich and fry combo.
Okay.
Because it's fast food. 1 sandwich isn't enough.
It never is, yeah.
No.
And 2, I would have gotten extra pickles.
How was the workload after?
Downtown?
Shitting. Yeah.
Oh, fine. I got a great stomach.
All right, good.
Yeah.
I like to hear
Ooh,
that.
and actually, if I'd gotten 2 sandwiches, I would have done 1 regular, 1 spicy. I did regular.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you go for the rice and beans?
No, I was not adventurous with my sides.
Next time, rice and beans Popeye. Oh, baby!
I'd been drinking during the day, so I didn't want to go crazy.
All right.
So I was kind of just, and it was my first time. Wanted to stick to the basics.
Fair
Lizzie
enough.
had the mashed potato. Lizzie's had Popeyes before. It wasn't her first time. It was only my virgin Popeyes experience.
Right. Your virgin pops.
Yeah, and she got the mashed potatoes, said the gravy wasn't good, and then like 10 minutes later, she's still eating it. And Emily, your sister, is also there, and she's like, "Lizzie, I thought you said the gravy was bad." And she's like, "It is, but I'm still hungry."
God. Yeah. Was she high on weed?
We all were.
Oh, okay. Because I know those.
It was the President's Day. We had to honor them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was born on 420 again? Which president? Oh,
Hitler.
Yeah, that's not a president.
Different kind of
yeah.
president.
Bad guy.
Different kind of.
Different type of different brand of tyranny.
Yeah.
Look, Travis, I know you were on the show, the drink a beer, play a game. What else have you done this week?
There was a show, but tomorrow I'm actually doing something very interesting. I'm going to have to report back. Going into one of them float tanks for the first time. It's going to lay around in the darkness. 80 minutes of just nothing. I'm very excited.
Just 80 minutes? That's
Yeah,
it?
Just 80 minutes and nothing.
So how much does it cost to go to prison for 80 minutes?
Yeah, well, to go into what is it? Confined prison. I actually, my girlfriend got me a gift certificate that she got for me for Christmas. So I think it's about is it $80 maybe tomorrow. Yeah,
Can you write it off?
dude. If I like it, if I like being alone in my thoughts in a floaty pool of warm water, I might. I don't think it's a container. I think it's open.
I think it's
Yeah.
open. Yeah, I think you can look. You can look up.
I don't know. I want to be shut in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just got a life insurance policy, so if it would be nice if I was shut in there and something happened,
Nice big payout.
because then people would like me.
Yeah.
Apparently,
I'm going to fuck up something in my future that will change that, but as of now, I think I'm fairly okay.
Yeah.
well, we will see if I am going to be down $1,000 because there's apparently $1,000 charge if you leave any bodily fluid in the the tank.
How is it $1,000?
I don't know. If you shit yourself in the tank, that's $1,000.
What?
That's
Wait.
insane.
Yeah. Hold on a second.
$1,000?
Yeah.
How much is water by the gallon in Portland? Is it a drought over there?
I think they changed the water between people. I hope they do. I don't know. They got to like decontaminate it.
How much does a cleaning lady cost for just like slap some gloves on?
I
her?
really
Yeah.
also think it should be more dependent on like this type of poo. You know, like if you have
Right.
like wet diarrhea, yeah, maybe $1,000. If you got nice solid logs, they're floating.
Look,
Yeah.
It's
and
already
it's
a floating
saltwater.
pool. Yeah, like come
Yeah.
on.
you can't tell me. You cannot tell me. You know that these people who own this place, not only do they own dogs, but their family owns dogs, and they refer to them as kids. And the exuberance behind them scooping up poop as they walk through the dog park and through their neighborhood. Now, I don't know what Portland looks like, but if these people are avoiding picking up their poop and leaving it on the sidewalk like God intended, then I would understand $1,000. But I know these people.
Yeah.
I know what's in their heads. They got the best bags in town. So
Well,
you
let's
can't go
see-
around charging $1,000 with a clear conscience.
Let's see if I'm down $1,000. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Don't eat Popeyes beforehand, I guess.
No, they said don't eat.
Oh, don't eat
Ever.
at all.
Yeah. Tom,
eat.
what about you? How are you doing?
I'm withering. I still can't go to the gym, and I had made some serious gains in the beginning of 2022. A couple months before, I've been going very consistently. I lost it all.
It's all gone.
I'm gone now. I'm a stick again, and
It's how quick it goes.
yeah. And I can't go to the gym for another week, or else I'm gonna bust this nose.
Dude, human bodies are dumb and stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You should be able to yell at your body and just have it just listen to you.
I mean, my stomach is more flat than usual. I like that. I'm going to keep that bit, but shoulders
all
just
muscles gone.
puny.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to think. I wasn't eating much. 3-4 ounces a day of nutrients for 7 days. You
And
know?
that's it. Yeah.
I was withering
Yeah.
watching Harry Belafonte movies.
And you weren't even allowed to speak. You weren't even allowed to like work those muscles either.
Yeah.
So now I'm suffering.
useless.
I'm suffering, and I'm letting you guys know. Maybe I'll. I don't know. Maybe I'll start a creatine thing. I hear that's what dudes do.
Yeah.
Dude, that's what I've
That's
been
real
doing. I'm
guy
drinking
stuff.
those bangs. I've been banging myself in the car before I go to the gym.
I have to call up Grant from Thought Cops. Because that man is swole yoked.
He is yoked. He's the yokiest man I know.
Yeah, I'm going to have to give him a ring and see what happens. Anyway, enough of my body. Let's get into another man's body. Let's the three of us strap up and get inside this dead man's body.
Let's get inside him. We'll get really deep inside him, and we'll wear his skin.
Yeah.
All three of us.
Yes!
We'll wear it into the chamber, Travis.
All right.
Oh, into my tank. My thinking isolation tank.
We have to really get to know Gustav Krupp by wearing his skin and going inside a sensory deprivation chamber.
Awesome.
I don't think we should be joking about chambers with this episode that's coming up.
Oh, no, we shouldn't.
I don't know.
We've been talking about German industrialists going back to the 1810s, and now we're up to the 1920s and 30s. Wonder where this is going to go.
Very little tension, I'm imagining.
Very little tension.
No. Very peaceful time.
Yeah,
Pax
no
Romana
one's
of Germany.
unreasonably angry at various groups of people. No. So let's get back into the Krupps, everyone's favorite family. So we've left off World War I. The Krupp works had gone silent. The hammers had stopped forging the steel that had powered Germany for the last 80 years. And Germany had surrendered. November 11th, war is over. So what's next for little Germany now? Huh?
Gotta figure it out. Gotta blame someone.
Gotta blame
Yeah.
someone.
Yeah, are they going to get hit with the same type of German disarmament crap? Because they're arming the entire world.
Yeah. So, what does happen? Firstly, political violence rampant in all of Germany almost from the beginning. This is not confined to the right, the left, the center. Everyone's just kind of fucking everybody up in the streets.
That's a snapshot of a world I want to live in. Just that part.
Roaming gangs of disaffected men and women.
I would just like to see what happens in that world with no particular motive.
Right.
Just like, no, you're up top. Now you're going in the trash.
Yeah, now it's trash time.
Yeah.
Trash time.
And so Essen in particular was a hot spot that everyone was worried about. This is not because of the Krupps specifically per se, but more so because this is the industrial heart of Germany. What are they going to do with everybody out of work? Because that's the main thing. Everyone's out of work now. All the factories have shut down. What's going to happen?
Right. So like when COVID happened, what is everyone going to do? They're going to play Switch, Nintendo. They're going to play the Animal Crossing, the Animal Crosswalks. And
that, unfortunately, there was no Animal Crossing, so all the Germans were just hanging out in the streets instead of staying in their homes.
Thank you, Nintendo.
But Gustav had a plan. He had a plan almost from the beginning. Once the wool was pulled from his eyes and he realized the war is over, he started planning for peacetime, planning for how the Krupp firm will adapt. What he decides to do, he retains every single worker that he had employed at the outbreak of the war. But, as we talked about in the last episode, the firm had exploded in size. So that meant an additional 80,000 workers that were hired during the conflict were all fired.
Yeah, it's holiday season.
Yeah. Holiday season, and remember the Krupp firm, like your whole pension, life security, everything is tied up to working there, and now that's been stripped from you. It wasn't as dire as it sounds, though. A lot of these were foreign workers that wanted to go home. Whether
the
these
Belgians,
were like
right?
Belgians, well, the ones who were forced, they went home. These were like Poles living in Prussia, East Prussia, that was Prussia at the time. Poles that were living in Russia that like volunteered to emigrate there to work because they were getting wages they were earning, and they were kind of like, if they're forming a Polish state, I'm going to go home, type of thing. Like if I'm not living under the Tsar anymore, I'm going to go home.
Follow you.
Yeah,
makes sense.
And Gustav does a little extra to try to keep a lid on this discontent. So the idea was if you left Essen within, I think it was a 2-week time frame, he would pay you for that 2 weeks' pay, and he'd give you a free one-way railroad ticket anywhere.
I mean, he invented the railroad.
Yeah,
he got those on cheap.
Yeah, he kind of owned the railroad, so it was his to give away.
Get the fuck out of here!
Where do you want to go? Topeka, Kansas.
Well, you can get a railway ticket to a port on the coast.
Guys, start building.
Yeah.
Start building the rail to Topeka camp.
A channel that runs from western France, under the Atlantic, under the East Coast, and right up and out at Topeka.
Yeah, did you say under France? I'm thinking you start early with the tunnel.
Yeah.
Just unnecessary digging.
Right under France.
Yeah.
Paris to Topeka, direct.
Perfect.
So that was Gustav's plan, to kind of keep a lid on the discontent in Essen, as I was saying. And he also knew that arms manufacturing going to have to take a small hiatus. France and Britain thought it was going to be a long hiatus. We'll see how Gustav gets around that. So the firm kind of goes back to its roots. They're manufacturing silverware. Remember, that was the first big thing Alfred had stumbled upon way back when?
Right.
But they're also diversifying motor scooters, cash registers, any sort of small steel item. Now the firm is making that.
Yeah, look, it's not so much wartime. It's about having a good time, right? So I've taken so many guns and turned it into playpens for children.
Yeah. It's a silly. Now our gun barrels are silly straws.
This is not a howitzer. Now it's a salt shaker.
These 7 guns are now a mobile for your infant.
Have you guys ever seen that shell art they did after World War One? It's kind of cool.
Oh, like using the shells? No.
Yeah, there's like a whole series. Like you can find them sometimes if you're like thrifting and stuff. People took all the shells and they like etched on them or like soldered extra shit on them and made these sculptures out of the shells.
Oh, that's cool.
Very popular.
We should check it out and see if we can see the Krupp imprint on any of them.
Yeah, probably.
We probably could. Now, all of Gustav's efforts, they helped a lot, but they weren't going to fix everything. As I said, political violence is rampant in Germany. At one point, the Essen factories were occupied by a mob of 70,000 communists. I don't think these were actually Krupp factories, though. I think they were non-Krupp factories in Essen. But eventually, police restored order and all that as well.
Right, and we're talking like actual communists, not people with blue hair from Berkeley, right?
We're talking straight Bolshevik communists.
Okay.
This is right after the Soviet Revolution. This is when the Soviets are at their peak of the international international workers movement. Like, we're all going to unite and the whole world is going to be the Soviet Union.
When they had pamphlets and stuff, giving them out and being aggressive.
That
was Lenin's whole big thing. He's like, now we got to go become Mormons and go tell everyone about the joys of communism.
I'm opening this dialogue purely to paint the picture, folks. I'm not saying a bunch of people demanding things they don't understand about. They're just people who are sick of it.
Yep, exactly. Now, the most disheartening fact of all of this, though, is that in the Versailles Treaty, it was stipulated that dozens and dozens of the Krupp factories were to be straight up dismantled. The tools would be destroyed, and just basically kind of gutting the infrastructure of the Krupp industrial empire. However, this didn't really help. Instead of destroying all these factories and making it impossible for the Germans to rebuild, basically what the Allies did is just allowed the Krupps to upgrade from their 1904 technology that they'd been adapting, and now brand spanking new equipment in the early 1920s.
Yeah, we will get rid of this factory. Oh, it's so gross, ugly, don't make any more.
Yeah, we'll throw away all these iPhone 4s.
Yeah. Do you think they did that with the factory that did Razor, the Razor phones? Right? They just dismantled the whole thing. They torched it.
Yeah.
When the Palm Pre came out.
Palm Pre. I mean, that depends on who you're talking about or who talking to with that term. The Palm Pre. Disgusting.
Yeah, so they got all this new equipment, and also because everyone else thought that the Versailles Treaty was working so well, the British and French arms manufacturers didn't update their equipment as fast. So that's why Germany had such a huge edge technologically in the beginning part of the war, is because they were immediately from the jump developing everything new.
Yeah, sometimes it's okay to crash your 2007 Volkswagen Rabbit.
Yeah,
because there are new ones.
Yes.
So you can just get that.
Yeah.
It's an excuse to make a step forward.
It's like when I have a pair of jeans or pants that I wear every day for 6 years, and then finally there's like a huge hole in them, and Lizzie's like, no, you got to throw these out. And then I get a brand new pair of jeans. I'm like, oh, these are better. These are better. I should have just gotten these from the start.
Yeah, I feel that. I'm also I'm way more vain than you, so I have several pairs of jeans that I wear all the time. So I can't relate to that one.
I only like one pair, you know.
See, when they rip, you can turn them into short shorts.
I do that with shoes too. I'll like wear out a pair of shoes until they're falling apart, and then be like, I guess I'll buy a pair of shoes.
Wait, you turn your shoes into short shorts? How do you do that?
Yeah,
creative sewing.
Oh, okay.
I definitely veer. Like I will buy the same pair of Levi's in different colors.
It's a smart plan.
It's like the slightly augmented Dylan Farnham look that I'm guilty of. But either way, I'm just talking about what I wear now.
Yeah.
I sound retarded.
What are pants?
Retarded. Let's go.
All right. So they just the firm actually rebounds pretty well, all things considered. In fact, within 3 years of the war ending, by July 1921, they have exceeded the size of the firm in 1914. So clearly, the Versailles Treaty not working exactly as intended. Another way it was not working as intended is Germany couldn't pay their reparations. So they had this like huge war debt that they had to pay to France and Britain. But you also crippled their entire economy. So how can you expect them to pay back their war reparations? And then the French, in one of the stupidest moves they'll make in the entire interwar period, invade and occupy the Ruhr Valley in 1923. Now, the Ruhr is this whole industrial area we've been talking about. Essen's right at its heart. So now the Krupps are living under French occupation.
Oh,
in Belgium.
so I never knew that. The French were like, oh, fuck you guys. We are going to grab your country now.
They were like, you haven't paid us any money that we're owed. And so Germany doesn't have an army, so the French just march in like 2 divisions. So it's a really small force to occupy like an area the size of, I think, like Connecticut, kind of.
Yeah, I had no idea that
Yeah.
agitation happened.
Yeah, 1923, the occupation of the Ruhr.
Do you guys want to invade Connecticut? I feel like we could probably do it. Like us 3.
I think we could take them.
Yeah.
We could probably fuck up Connecticut.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But no
Brad,
one
what do
really
you want?
notice.
Yeah, I mean, that's where all the racists are from anyway.
Yeah.
Is that where the KKK is? Yeah, they're all
from there?
Their headquarters are there.
That makes sense.
Right next to Vince McMahon's
Right next
house.
to right next to the WWE.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this occupation, the Germans kind of had a slight foreknowledge of it. Like, the French had been threatening it, and then finally it was like, oh, it happened. So the Krupps had kind of planned a passive resistance. So the idea was the French were going to occupy it, but they still wanted everyone to work because that was where they would extract all the money from. So instead, it was kind of like a sit-in strike by all the Krupp workers, where like they'd go to their stations but not actually work that hard.
Ooh, that sounds like collective bargaining.
Yeah, a little bit,
like
right?
that.
Yeah,
Krupps don't like that, boy.
But it's collective bargaining against the French,
Yeah.
so that's good.
Yeah.
Man, Gustav must have been so mad.
He was pissed. In fact, it gets even more pissed because at one point, a French patrol is going around kind of doing inspections and spot checks at places, and a massive crowd of all Krupp workers is just following them, just kind of silently to like spook them almost. So it's like a group of like 20 French soldiers and their officer with like a machine gun and rifles, and just thousands and thousands of Krupps just kind of following them around and like jeering at them. At one point, they get the French patrols in a garage, so they like back themselves into a corner because they're kind of panicking. And no one really knows how it started, but eventually things are being thrown back and forth, and you have like a reenactment of the Boston Massacre, where the French machine gun opens up on the crowd. They killed 13 and wounded an additional 52 against these striking workers. And after that, violence breaks out all across the Rhine and all across the Ruhr. Oh. International opinion turns on the French. Even the British, their allies, are like, you need to get the fuck out of the Ruhr. This is a disaster. Everyone's pissed at them. And Gustav is arrested by French authorities because the French are kind of defiant for a while. And they arrest him for inciting a riot and blame him for the deaths of these 13 workers. Big mistake by the French.
Ooh. Well, he's trying to do Krupp's massacre. They did the Krupp's massacre, dude.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if... Well, that's technically a massacre, because the Boston massacre was like 2 people.
I think it was 7 affected.
Yeah.
2 or 3 died. It's really
it's real small.
It's not a massacre. Like
No.
we've seen bus accidents in recent history that don't get called a massacre. I don't know why we have to brand it like that.
It was barely a mass shooting on today's scale of America.
Yeah, mass shootings today, they're kind of annoying. They're just like the Transformers movies. Like,
Right.
I don't care that you're just doing more of the shit. The story's not good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
stop
exactly.
Boston
Cut it
massacre
out.
was a Wednesday in modern times.
So the big mistake here, obviously, is that Gustav, by getting arrested for something that's clearly not his fault, becomes a martyr for this whole scenario, basically. He's a national hero. He was already halfway to being a national hero just by being associated with the Krupps. Now he's like, even though he married into the family, he's a true Krupp, standing up for Germany and standing up against the French.
I got to ask, Connor, when the French were there, did they occupy Via Hugel?
They did, but they not like the way that the Allies will occupy it.
Okay.
But they would like come check on the house, and I think like one French captain would like stay there a little bit. But
he left because it was cold.
yeah,
It's really cold.
He's like, this is insane.
So this is what you Germans call luxury.
Also,
eh?
why do you serve dinner at 6:45 and take my plate away at 6:51? It's crazy.
Yeah.
This is insane. I'm trying to sit here and be French about it. I'm trying to, as I bite into a roll, light a cigarette.
Yeah.
So I could tell a story about my father. Doesn't make sense. I've been watching a lot of French movies. These people operate very strange.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole occupation of the Ruhr. Very strange. If anything, arresting Gustav actually was one of the best things that happened to him, because this is the same period where the inflation in Germany just goes out of control. Oh. So he's in prison while that happened.
Okay.
Doesn't really affect him. And also, he's in prison. It's technically a French military prison in Germany because it's under occupied territory. All his guards are German. He's given a huge cell. It's kind of comfy.
It's similar to his house.
Yeah. It's probably too warm for him, I would bet. He probably was like, please open more windows. They're like, you're underground.
We can't open windows, you to leave.
Yeah.
Is there any way to make the rats come out of the cages on time? I'm very pissed off. They come in at all hours.
Yeah. Please. Keep it to when I'm not sleeping.
Do you think we release these rats at a certain time?
Well, you
Yeah,
must.
right? They're like tiny little horses.
The little control freak.
They're like tiny little horses that eat tiny scraps of food.
And I can't ride them. Another thing he missed while in prison is Adolf Hitler's Munich beer hall putsch. Now, it's unlikely Gustav would have been involved in it if he was not in prison. However, this is like a little known fact about the beer hall putsch is that Hitler was working with, obviously a bunch of other National Socialists, but he was also working with some World War I generals who had ties with Gustav. So there could have been a connection if he wasn't in prison, but he's in the prison the whole time.
This is when he's part of what they called them, the Freed Corps or whatever, right?
Right. This is like right after he had joined the Nazis. So Nazis are still like the coalition of middle-class socialists and hard right Nazis, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
He only does 7 months of his 15-year prison sentence because the French kind of leave the Ruhr with their tails tucked between their legs because, as I said, international opinion had turned so harsh against them that they had just kind of left, even though they never got what they were looking for. He's greeted to a hero's welcome on the train ride back to Essen, thousands and thousands cheering his return. And the occupation did nothing but harden attitudes in Germany that rearmament was a necessary lifeblood of the German nation, and it just emboldened right-wing radicals that they needed a strong man to control Germany. So now that he's back in charge, what's he going to do? Well, the first thing he wants to do is hit up those British arms dealers who owe him a bunch of money for killing German soldiers. That's step one.
Right, that's his investment. You know what I mean? Like if you've taken your coffee punch card that you have like 7 of them, right? The second you're back in town, you're gonna get 1 billion lattes for free.
Oh yeah. He's turning in that punch card. He says, now he filed the initial claim in 1921, so before the occupation, but it would take years for it to finally be settled, both because of his imprisonment, but also because they kind of haggled over the price. He initially said that they owed him 260,000 pounds sterling, which I think is like $10 million today. Drags on for years, as I said, until they finally reach an agreement. So the Vickers arms manufacturers sent Krupp 40,000 pounds. Now, by the late 1920s, the Krupp firm is doing better than ever. They'd found some new metallurgical processes that were creating the best steel they'd ever made. So good that in 1929, a little company that was building a big building in New York was like, we want Krupp steel to make the tip of the tower of the building we're making, and it's still there today on the Chrysler building.
Oh, shit.
So the Chrysler building is topped with Krupp steel.
I always think the Chrysler building is one of the nicer looking New York buildings.
Well, now you know why.
Yeah, it's
Built
got
by
that.
the slaves of Belgian World War I, occupiers.
All right, maybe it's not that nice anymore.
Nah, it's good. Because
It's good.
you see what it's the Art Deco look. It's the imagination behind the lines.
That's very
the
German.
Curves, the shoulders of the thing. Like Empire State Building is
Ugly.
it's
Yeah.
a very ugly building
Boom, boom,
by
boom.
comparison. And like, let's be honest, the Twin Towers
Ugly.
didn't even try. Didn't.
Yeah, no.
It's like the worst of 1970s American architecture.
It's so boring and
So bad.
stupid. I mean,
it
if
looks like a
freedom-
SUNY campus. We were talking about SUNY campuses
Yeah.
the other day.
yeah,
The Freedom Tower, ugly.
even worse. Yeah, they really know how to not do it the right way ever.
Yeah. All the new apartment
Yeah.
buildings, ugly.
Yeah, modern
Now,
modern architecture is a nightmare. It really is.
No, well, it's in the West. If we go to Dubai, and then they have all those really cool buildings.
You want to talk
They
about
got all
modern day slavery?
yeah.
You want to, they know how to do it extra.
Let's go to Qatar.
This
yeah. Well, at least they got cool looking buildings. I don't know.
no, they are just as tasteless as the Persian nightclub owners who are building them. Okay,
that's true.
They're tacky.
Yep.
They're stupid. They made the island shaped like the world.
Terrible.
Like, just make some islands. Like,
Well,
we
they got
know
the,
what the world
palm
looks
tree
like.
one looks good, and it kind of makes sense because it's like one big main avenue, all these little things branching off of it. Like,
Yeah,
you don't want to live on a map of the world.
it's so dumb. So
Yeah, but every continent in that little tiny island thing has a hookah bar.
Oh, okay, I'm in.
And you
I'm
can
in.
drive your Porsche Mercedes Benz around the world.
Look, I could go off all day about Dubai and what a terrible place it is and how I would bomb it to hell if I could. But we don't have that time.
No.
So let's get back into 1920s Germany here. Talk about the
Connor,
steel.
I do have a quick question about the rearmament or the Treaty of Versailles. Like, so Germany couldn't produce any weapons or military weapons, right? Is that it? But it could still have like, you could, if you were a regular German, you could have like a shotgun because people hunted.
Yeah,
back
it
then,
was
right?
leisure weapons.
It was like heavy machinery weapons. So like no big cannon, a cap on the amount of small arms and machine guns. The armed forces, I think, they were only allowed to have one division, which is like 10,000 men.
Right.
So that was as big as the army could literally be. Like no general staff. We're gonna see how they got around literally all of that.
good.
Okay. All right. Good.
Yeah. So as there's a perfect transition, Gustav knew all along Germany is going to rearm soon, and really, when it gets down to it, they never actually stopped. They didn't actually just stop doing arms production. They just hid it from the world.
Yeah, you fudge the books.
They fudged the books. There were separate books in Berlin and in Essen, and then the one they're sending to Paris or London. And basically, a lot of this we didn't find out until after World War II, is how well hidden it was. This only was came because when World War II started, everyone's like, how the fuck did Germany do this? How, we knew they started rearming when Hitler came in, but still, how did they build a perfect war machine in 6 years? Well, they didn't have 6 years. They'd started doing it basically once the firing stopped.
Right, they're sneaky. They went into all those Blade nightclubs.
Yeah.
Right, with all the vampires partying. And they're like, get out of here, vampires. We have to make weapons.
Yeah.
Because, the Allies aren't going to look in the vampire nightclub.
They're not going to look
Same.
there. They're also not going to look in neutral countries, which is where the Krupps kind of exported the rearmament program. Yeah.
Like Sweden?
Yeah, exactly. Sweden was a big one. Spain was another. Russia, because the Soviet Union had different treaty agreement with the Weimar Republic, they were allowed to do it with the Russians. And this was all like an unspoken conspiracy between Krupp, a few other industrialists, and former generals and admirals, and also like some current ones, because again, the military is so reduced in size that even the former ones have power. And then like some of the Weimar Republic officials, like the ones they knew who were friendly to this idea, they would let in on, and they'd kind of earmark them money or give them weird tax breaks or say that they're paying them for locomotives, but really they're paying them for U-boats. So all of this is happening under the nose of the Allies.
Right. Have you guys watched Babylon Berlin?
No.
You check that one out. It's really good. I think it's on Amazon Prime, but it's on Netflix. It's on Netflix, but it's about that Weimar Republic time, and they kind of go into like, I don't know, like this whole like their secret arms they're doing, and like Russians are moving shit around, and it's cool.
Yeah, because there's probably like I'm guessing at this, but there's probably an ongoing like Soviet conspiracy within the Weimar Republic too, because it's such a corrupt government to begin with. Everyone who's anyone can get a hand in there.
Anytime there's a corrupt government, that's where you gotta be to do illegal things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at the the Cayman Islands.
Yeah, that's where I put all my money.
That's where I put all my heavy weapon designs.
It's your
Cayman Islands.
patriotic duty.
Yeah.
To keep the government's dirty hands off it.
Exactly.
I don't want Janet Yellen to be yelling at me. You know what I'm saying?
Janet
That's why I keep my collection of illegal Funko Pops in Colombia.
Yeah.
Guarded by the cartel.
Funko Pops are a child's opioid. That's what they're doing. And the adults are eating them at quadruple the rate that they're recommended.
These are the illegal ones. So.
Right. The ones that are good.
Yeah. They don't have box heads.
Because the legal ones are terrible.
They're miniature sculptures.
Now, Gustav, like I said, he had a lot of plans for how to keep the secret. So another thing was like I said, they couldn't build big guns. And for Gustav, that was actually a benefit because he didn't have to waste steel on guns that would be obsolete within a year or two, which is kind of the nature of artillery at this point. So it's like, instead, we're just going to work on design and maybe build one prototype. If it works, great. Keep improving that design until we have a new prototype to build. And they also are focusing in production on the smaller secondary things needed. So like fuses, wiring, shells, casings, not even the shells themselves, and like the gears that you need for these guns. So producing the small things, designing the big things to keep it all hidden. Like I said,
and they're working with Sweden. They know how to assemble big things.
Yep, working with Sweden.
So I'm just saying
that's true. And then with Sweden, they got like they just have the little pamphlet where put this in here, then put the barrel on top.
Lift this with two people, not one.
Yeah.
Pull firing mechanism.
Assemble on rug.
Krupp is personally sending engineers and technicians to work in factories in, like I said, Russia, Spain, Scandinavia, Turkey, where they would basically hone their skills, get hands-on practice, and then they'd come back to Essen to share what they'd learned. He was making holding companies, creating partnerships and dummy firms to do all of this. Another place that is happening a lot is in Holland. And he's also selling patents to neutral parties. So even if it's not a firm he owns, he'll sell them the patent. This happened in Spain where you'd sell the patent to a U-boat. The Spanish allowed Krupp to send engineers to supervise the construction of these U-boats. Then when they were like ready for their shakedown run, the German Navy would send a delegation of like 45 guys to man this 45-man sub and sail it around Spanish waters. And then they would return home and tell them everything they learned, and the boat usually ended up back in Germany. Or it was just scrapped. So basically, Germany is just training a military in a different country, and no one is noticing.
I mean, they're getting it done.
Yeah.
And also, I have to backtrack about a minute ago when you said a term, dummy firms.
Yeah.
Right. Does that or does it not sound like what we should be calling erections in the modern day?
Yeah. Yo, I got a dummy firm.
Oh, man. She gave me a dummy firm.
So do you think their excuse if they were caught in Spain was like, oh, like the U-boat, and they're like, oh, I thought this was the duck tour of Barcelona. I thought we were going to go on the tour.
Excuse me, what are you doing with that boat? Oh, nothing. We're doing a paella class under here. It's deep sea paella time.
That sounds amazing. That's why I got my scuba license.
We're filming the next season of Below Deck for Bravo.
We use gunpowder inside of the paella.
We are cooking it with velocity.
Yeah. So by the late 1920s, this is now 10 years after it, the Allied inspectors are less strict. They can kind of just start doing it more openly. So they're ramping up a huge amount of production, and now the firm is not just cannons. So in World War I, they were cannons and U-boats, and that was kind of it. Small arms was someone else. Now they're doing cannons, small arms, U-boats, and in 1928, the first Panzer rolls off the Krupp production line.
Ooh.
They're still carrying out secret field tests, and then by the early 30s, even before Hitler's in power, there are hundreds of Panzers rolling off the Krupp assembly lines every year.
I would drive a Panzer if I could.
It's a good name for a tank.
Yeah, sure is. Flat as a Panzer.
Mm-hmm.
Flat as a... That's a anime with big, giant anime titties.
A Panzer?
Yeah, it's like called like Panzer Tank or something. It's like
The tank has big titties?
No, it's about these ladies that drive Panzer tanks.
A Panzer also sounds like a Turkish guy trying to say panties, but just like reading the word for the first time. Panzers.
What
Take
is
off your
Panzers?
Panzers. How much for a evening? Give me taking your Panzers off.
Yeah, it's called Girls und Panzer in Japan. Here. Yeah. This is a very important message for Travis.
These are all the we went very sexual in the last few minutes.
Yeah. With dummy firms and Panzer girls.
Yeah.
Those Panzer girls giving you a dummy firm? Is that why?
Yeah, dummy firm. No, but what is with Germans and cats? Because it's the Panzer, it's the tiger.
Yep. There's a leopard, but I forget what the German word for leopard is, but that's one of the tanks.
Oh, Panzer is just panther?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I hate that.
So, right. So, Pantera would just be Panzer in Germany.
Yeah, Panzera.
Yeah. Now, another reason that they can kind of get away with this more is the reason the Allies aren't as preoccupied with inspecting Germany is because the Depression's hit, and everyone's got their own problems to deal with.
Of course.
Including the Krupps. The firm is not unaffected. So they still have a huge amount of employees, but they basically are only actively working half of them, and the other half are not getting paid, but they're still getting their like classic Krupp benefits, so they can't really leave. And the ones who are working are only down to a 3-day work week. So they're getting like half pay, basically.
You just can't eat guns.
I want a 3-day work week.
I know, right?
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
You see, the thing you fight for, all of a sudden the world tells you have to do it. You start thinking twice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Don't you want that 7-day work week back?
I want that 7-day work week back.
We don't know. They might have been happy. They might have been like, wow, this is the best Krupp day ever. Yeah. This is my Kruppsmas Eve.
These people are generations of paying attention to the clock.
Yeah.
They're task force, right? They don't want a 3-day work week. They get agita on Saturdays.
Yeah.
You know?
Gustav must have been fucking losing his mind. Like,
yeah. He's like, this is all I can afford. I can't get on these people's cases more often.
How do they tell time when they don't have to go to work? During this depression, what's Gustav doing? Well, he's been waiting for his knight in shining armor who will come lead the German people out of their despair that they're currently in. Like his hero, Alfred, he had always wished that there would be like a strong man who could come in, wipe through the error that is democracy, take power, and just guide Germany to a promised land.
Okay.
Would
Now-
this man be a little German artist or a little Jewish artist?
Yeah, a little Jew boy.
Well, at the time it was not. He was
Oh.
initially a supporter of the National People's Party, the DNV, which was led by one Alfred Hugenberg. But he had kind of like started to rise in the beginning part of the Weimar Republic, but was starting to fade at this point in the late 1920s. He was still also giving to basically any right-wing political party. He wasn't just giving to one. He kind of like spread it out, but that was his main support.
Okay.
All right.
However, Gustav and Bertha's son, Alfred, named for the great Alfred Krupp, he was a big fan of the little artist boy that you were talking about.
Right.
Oh.
Very, very early supporter of one Adolf Hitler.
So he was walking around. He's like, you know what? I love these brown shirts. These are my favorite. They have a sale at Old Navy. Can you imagine that? We're not even allowed to have a Navy.
I liked
They
him
have
before
old
he was
brown
cool.
Shirts.
Yeah. Now, he was not a brown shirt. He was an SS man.
Oh,
from the
SS
jump.
boy.
He had actually had a very, I don't know how the exact number, but he had a very low Nazi party number, which meant he joined really early. And he also had a similarly low SS party number. And he
Okay.
also joined that early. So any excuse of, oh, I just joined the party because everyone is in it, not going to hold up.
He's a modern man. He doesn't read the fine print. He's sold.
Yeah,
He
he's
clicks
sold.
it.
He's in.
He's like, I want to know how to make $99 a day passively with cryptocurrency. I'm going to commit to this bit.
Right, and also SS stands for Super Saiyan, and I love Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah. Now, there's one important member of the Krupp family that... That's good.
It's good. One of those Axis shows.
Isn't that the Guitar Channel, Axis?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Now, there's one member of the Krupp family that did not like the Austrian little angry man. That was Bertha.
Well, too bad she's a woman.
Well, here's the thing. There's plenty of reasons to dislike Hitler, right? I think we can all agree on that. Plenty
think
of reasons to not like the guy.
It's been heavily reviewed
Yeah.
for quite some time now.
Well, I think Bertha had a new one. She didn't hate his policies. She didn't hate his politics. Didn't hate what he was for. Didn't hate anything that he supported. She hated him because he was low-class trash.
What have I been saying? What have I been saying? Bertha, bringing it home.
She hated him because he wasn't a nobleman. That was almost the entire reason she did not like him. She once referred to him, this is before he's in power, obviously, as an ill-bred gutter snipe.
Gutter snipe.
Oh, yes!
Good word.
That's actually frequently used in the Pygmalion, which I talked about last week.
Ah, all right.
Oh, you gutter snipe.
Gutter snipe, you wretched gutter snipe.
And for, even when he was in power, refused to call him by his name and only ever referred to him as, quote, that certain gentleman. Yeah, so that was why Bertha did not like Hitler.
Ooh, okay.
Well,
Little side note about Hitler crossing paths with the Krupps. When he was still kind of an unknown political agitator, he tried to visit the Krupp headquarters. He went to the main headquarter building and was like, "Can I meet with Herr Krupp," which meant Gustav? And they said, "Who the fuck are you? No way." He tried to go to Villa Hugel. They wouldn't let him in because they're like, "You're just a lowly politician, not even in politics technically. You just run a party. Get out." And so instead, he had to go to their public exhibition that had the history of the Krupp family.
Oh, he went to the Krupp Museum?
Yeah, he went to the Krupp Museum, and we know that.
we used to call it the Krupp stop.
Yeah. We know that because he signed in big script cursive letters his name in the guest logs.
Yeah, because we all know this. Hitler, he may have caused a few atrocities, but deep down inside, not only was he trash, but he was a gay artist.
Yeah.
So he needed to show off he was there.
He wanted to show it
You
off.
know that A was really, it was resembling some kind of flower, a lily of sorts. Look, I'm here. I'm spring. It's
I wouldn't
me.
be surprised if he stemmed it and kind of had a flourish on it. You know?
Yeah, big bubble letters. Could you imagine if he wrote in a glitter pen, with the bubble letters like girls in fourth grade
He
do?
would have loved those types of pens.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm also imagining him seeing the guest book and there's all the lines I'm going to make it 3 lines.
Yeah.
My God.
Now, so that all will change for Hitler on September 14th, 1930. That is when the Nazi Party goes from a fringe radical party that has 12 seats in the Reichstag to the second largest party in the Reichstag with 107 seats. They're now the second most powerful party in the government. They're fully legitimized with this, and even though over the next 2 years their power would like wax and wane, it's never full. They're never going to go away after this point. And it's at that point in the autumn of 1932 that Gustav finally comes around, joins the Nazi Party, and starts donating boatloads of money to them.
I mean, it's a write-off.
Yeah,
I don't think it is.
No?
I think he's just... He actually made a slush fund with a bunch of other industrialists.
Huh.
That was for use by, like, personal use by Nazi Party officials.
You know, I guess these guys maybe didn't like Jews.
They didn't like Jews. The main thing for Alfred was obviously not liking the Jews was a big part of it. But the main thing for him is Hitler is like, no, we're going to rearm. And that's all Gustav wanted to hear.
Right. I mean, behind, obviously, you know, the Jewish thing, we obviously know that about Hitler because he did so many bad things. But I feel like most Germans probably got behind it because Hitler was like, we're going to make Germany great again. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, literally, like, I'm not even just to make that analogy, just to be like, hey,
No,
there's
that's what it
pride
was.
in our country, you know? Yeah.
Well, that's
We have jobs again.
that's what happens. You know, you beat up enough people and you tell them that they're the wrong people all the time. You get these radical movements. It's not like it's not a surprise.
Yeah.
There's no joking there. It's like,
Even if Hitler died in the trenches of World War I, someone else would have come along promising equal things and been equally as bad, but in a different way. Maybe instead of taking it out on Jews, they would have taken it out on another people more hardcore.
Imagine if that...
There was going to be a Hitler in Germany following World War I. With or
yeah,
without Hitler.
exactly. It was primed for it. The Jew thing is almost like it's totally secondary too. Like we're kind of
It was
taught,
Hitler's anti-Semitism that caused it to explode,
right,
but it could have been something else.
But anti-Semitism was there long before that.
Baked into Europe.
Yeah, with Germany especially, like Wagner, Bavarian Kings, all that shit. Like that's all very like when we did the Nietzsche episode. That's when I found out like they were doing like basically the Nazi ideology, and Nietzsche had to like separate himself from that because he was not anti-Semitic, was very vocal about that. All the elites that he was hanging out with were all like, "Yeah, Jews, let's throw them in a pile."
And he's like, "Whoa, no."
Yeah, and like
Well,
that's almost 100. No, that's 70 years before.
Yeah. Now, imagine, you know, that's kind of interesting. Imagine, like, somebody else coming to power that wasn't Hitler, but instead of having his, pencil brush mustache, he has mutton chops. So, like...
mutton chops for that?
Mutton
the
chops
70s would have been so different.
Yeah, everyone would have had
Hitler
Hitler mustaches.
We'll still call it a chaplain.
He has a chaplain.
I'm just imagining all four Beatles with on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Been a hard day's night.
God.
Yeah, so anyway, Gustav, big Nazi, giving them lots of money. And in 1933, this is when Hitler is like, this is the moment. This is when he plans the Reichstag fire. This is when he basically tells everyone in his inner circle, which includes Gustav at this point, 1933 will be the last election no matter what. If we win enough seats, we're going to abolish democracy. If we don't win enough seats, we're going to seize it by force and abolish democracy. That was the plan from the get-go. They win enough seats to not fully do it without force. They use the little bit of force that they need. Bing, bang, boom. Hitler's chancellor dissolves the Reichstag, and now the Third Reich can begin. And in large part, it was because it was funded by Gustav Krupp. He was the one that was funding all of Goebbels' propaganda films.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
Got a regular old original YouTuber.
Yeah.
Goebbels.
Now, this is not a one-way relation.
And Goebbels was the first guy to get rid of the dislike button. So
That is pretty funny, actually.
That is
a good drawing of a comparison between big tech and Nazis.
Yeah, and the Nazis were the first deplatformers.
yeah.
True, yeah.
Yeah. So this was like a two-way relationship. Hitler obviously wanted Krupp's industry, but also associating with the Krupp name on its own was worth just as much. And for Krupp, this was a way to line his own pockets.
Listen, Gustav, it's me, your friend Adolf Hitler. I have a favor and an idea. This might be bank for both of us. Hear me out. Mustache, combs, made from your fine steel, my autograph.
Ooh.
Wow. These are going to sell at all the Krupp stops.
I don't know how we could say no to that.
I don't know how to do a German accent at all.
I'm
all over the place.
I think we should stick to only Jersey accents for every person.
That is a good idea.
And well, Krupp's writes back, "Das ist fire."
Yeah. Das ist fair. Führer. Das ist Führer.
Mein Führer loot crates.
Yeah, so as I said,
You're Luke. Sorry, that just hit me like late.
It could be fun. It could be very fun.
Oh yeah, I got the Aver Braun loot crate.
Look at this T-shirt.
I can use the Lenny Riefenstahl filter now.
It's half of a swastika. Donald Duck.
So what Hitler does with Krupp is he makes Gustav basically the controller of all German industry. It's all now, they all basically have to answer to him.
Nice.
His very first act, he expels all the Jewish industrialists from all of their businesses and all the business organizations. Now, Hitler follows that up by helping out Krupp by immediately raiding every single German union's headquarters. So now all the unions are getting destroyed, just as Krupp always wanted.
Now we can switch to the Jersey accent. Whoa, whoa, whoa! What are you doing, my union? Come on.
Yeah. So, it's a tool that we use against, corporate hypocrisy to make sure things are conducive to our environment.
We're Local 26, and you're getting rid of us?
Yeah, our boss is a giant inflatable rat.
You ain't taking away our communities. Not with us being here in the way. All right, I'll get out. I'll move.
We're the best. We're the best union in Munich.
I love it. I love Jersey. We're gonna bring the Jersey Long Island accents.
Yeah.
We'll just stay
Stick with what we know.
Yeah.
So Gustav also became and continued to be Hitler's chief financial donor. And as we said in the last episode, this is a guy who was the perfect bureaucrat, loved to serve, always was looking for someone who could tell him what to do. And he was signing his letters to Hitler as your obedient servant.
What a gay.
No.
Real simp attitude there.
Yeah, very simple. Well, he was simp in the last
he's simping
episode too.
And he's probably simping to Bertha. I mean, she's a foot taller than him.
Yeah.
And all the money is, again,
it's
all
her
the money
money,
is
right?
still technically hers. He has zero controlling interest of the Krupp firm.
She should have put her foot down. Got rid of that low rung
ill-bred
trash.
gutter snipe.
Gutter snipe, inbred retard.
Yeah.
God damn it.
So in April of 1933, this is when the Hitler salute becomes required of all Kruppionier on the factory floor and in the factory offices. So this is just as like, and then within a year or so, I think it's just the requirement of every German. But Gustav got in there a little early.
Did they have a special Krupp salute before where they spelled Krupps with their fingers or something?
No, they did a little dance. It's the Krupp
The
shuffle.
Krupp walk?
Yeah, Krupp walk.
Yeah, they ripped the bottom of their pants off and exposed the lederhosen underneath.
They do a Krupp
Dance
walk.
around a little bit. We hate the Jews. We like to do all the things like a make a gun for use. I don't know.
And then Hitler finally makes his first official visit as the Führer to the works in June of 1934. And Bertha forbid him from staying in Villa Hugel.
Nice. Oh, yeah.
Hitler is also like, I'm going to stay with my friend who lives in Essen. And everyone's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'll see you at the Ramada Inn.
Yeah, well, I'm going to Villa Hugel, but you're going to stay with your friend Franz or whatever. Like, yeah, stay in his, staying on his fucking, like, his pull-out couch.
Hey, Chancellor.
It's just like back in Vienna.
Yeah.
When we were painting, remember?
No, my friend
we are going to have a slumber party. Yeah, boy.
We went to Blockbuster and we rented movies and we're going to swim in his hated pool.
We got RoboCop.
So much better than Via Hugel. Yeah, so much better.
Yeah. I wonder what they're doing.
This place has heat. And we can watch the end where Clarence Boudica dies.
And it's not 22 degrees in the hallways. Yeah. So then, in 1934, you brought up the brown shirts, Travis. I had brought up how the Nazi Party initially started as a merger between like middle-class socialists who hated the Jews and hardcore right-wing radicals who hated the Jews. Well, now Hitler is like, time to purge all those middle-class socialists. This is in what's now called the Night of the Long Knives.
I have heard of this.
It's the Ernst Röhm purge is another name for it, because Röhm was the head of the brown shirts /SA.
Also, Ernst Röhm, I've been trying to find enough information on him to do a roast. He was actually like fairly openly homosexual.
Yeah, that's
weird.
another big reason why this purge happened.
Right. Well, Hitler was like, I'm totally not gay, but we had a slumber party, and he was trying to look at my pee-pee.
He had a dummy firm looking at me.
Firm.
A dummy firm, and he inserted it like a rom. An Ernst Röhm.
Now, what's interesting about the Night of the Long Knives, though, is it happens just a few days after Hitler's visit to the Krupp works. Now, it is more than likely that he had told or helped plan a little bit with Gustav this purge. Because Gustav hates socialists, so it makes sense for Hitler to kind of let him in on what's happening.
Sure, yeah. He's got the money.
Yeah. Now, also, what the SA purge allowed Hitler to do is make rearmament the number one goal in Germany. The budget for rearmament skyrockets to 21 billion marks, and still being hidden entirely from everyone. So the budget says 6 billion for rearmament, but it's 21 billion. And then on March 16th of 1935, for all intents and purposes, the Versailles Treaty is torn up when Hitler decrees military conscription, the creation of an army of 12 corps and 36 divisions, and open rearmament, and the Allies don't do anything.
Pussies.
They really were. They could have just marched in, and Hitler would have been deposed and spent the rest of his life in a French jail.
I think they like the industry idea.
Maybe.
I mean, industry does wonders. I mean, war. We've seen it in our lifetime, like just needless fighting and shit. It's how, the. Do you think the Rothschilds cares about any other Jew? Know what I'm saying? Just make money. That's why I'm saying go to war all the time. Big proponent of war. I don't care
what
you're
on the phone
over.
to a guy in Moscow lately?
Not that you've seen.
Okay. Yes, so Krupp knew this was coming. He had been planning for it. He was ready to pounce right when all the cover comes off and they can kind of start doing this more in the open. And he recalled all of those engineers and technicians that were out in the neutral countries. He brought them all back to Essen, so now they're ready to hit the ground running. And now that the rearmament's open and in the air, guess what they can finally start doing? One of the Krupp family's favorite traditions.
Big old barrels.
No. Travis, I guess?
Smelling poop again?
No, guys. It's selling guns to the enemies of Germany.
Oh!
Now that they can make guns for Germany, they can make them for everybody else, too. So now the international orders are flooding in. They're selling guns to Poland. They're selling guns to the Russians. They're selling guns to the Belgians and the Dutch.
This is why no Ally forces invade. Because they're sitting at home buttering a piece of toast going, there's some good fucking guns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The French weren't buying them, so no excuse for the French. This was the time to occupy the Ruhr.
Yeah, the French are stupid.
So as the 30s roll along, Die Firma is solidifying itself as the most powerful corporation in the Third Reich. Gustav now owns controlling interests in hundreds, maybe thousands of corporations, basically in every industry you can imagine. And this is also including all his foreign holdings.
Now, was Hitler cool with him sending guns to other countries?
Hitler was way more cool with it than either of the Kaisers ever were.
Okay.
Because, one, he wasn't selling them to England or France, so that was a big part of it. And two, while he's, I was going to get into this later, we're going to do it now, while he's selling all this internationally and while those technicians were in the foreign countries, they were doing a double job of spying on those countries and reporting that intelligence back to Krupp, who would pass it along to Hitler. So basically, Hitler is like, it's a necessary evil if we sell them some guns, but then we know exactly how many guns they have, what make and model, where they are, where they're stationing them, what types of guns they're buying, and that type of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you do have the upper hand if you have their like an entire inventory sheet.
Like you know everything they've got.
And you can outgun them in every way.
Yeah.
You know, be
exactly.
like, oh, yeah, we sold a bunch of these. We need to work on something that's going to just outfire that.
And also, he knew, like, Krupp's arming me, I can't piss him off. Like, whereas the Kaisers, they knew that too, which is why they would always eventually back down. For them, it was like a matter of pride more. It was like, well, oh, no, I don't want you to do it, though, even though you're arming me. Hitler's like, I know you're going to arm me first, so I don't give a shit.
And like, you said that they're selling to Poland. They're probably selling the Polish blanks.
Probably.
Yeah,
Probably selling them the inferior guns like they always do.
Just like some pepper in there.
Yeah.
Like, and they couldn't tell the difference.
It's also around this time, in 1936, that 30-year-old Alfred finally comes into the Krupp firm after kind of being a little wayward in his early youth.
30 years old?
Yeah.
When you have an opportunity like that, you don't wait till you're 30.
He like kind of had a weird rebellious streak. Again, he's
go
also
off
a
to
Nazi, but like,
Yeah.
Did he go off to an island in the Mediterranean as well?
no, he did something worse in the minds of Bertha. He married a divorcee.
That is
Ooh.
gutter snipe activity.
Yeah, and he was like,
Yeah.
he basically eventually has to divorce her because of how ashamed they were that she had been married before.
And he probably owned like a jazz album.
Maybe.
You know, that was a big no-no.
It was race cars. That's what he really loved.
Oh,
He bought a
race
fuck
cars.
ton of race cars. Yeah.
Race cars, divorcees, and jazz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he will have a son of the divorcee, and we'll talk about him at the very, very end. Alfred, he's gonna come up a lot because he's the real piece of shit in this family. But this was also 1936. Alfred, guess what he did that year? Won a bronze medal at the Berlin Olympics for the 8-meter sailing class.
Okay, sailing.
Right?
That describes a lot about a person.
That is also one of the strangest Olympics ever. If you've ever seen that footage, I'm sure of like, some of the countries are doing the Nazi salute. Like I think there's a few Americans and
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, what's going on, man?
I was just waving.
Nice mustache.
Why is everyone pointing that way? The sun's over here. Oh God. Yeah, and then that was also, what was his name? The
Black Runner.
Yeah, the Black Runner.
Jesse Owens.
Right. So
Three
that
gold
must
medals.
have really pissed him off. Like,
Well,
I mean, they did a whole movie about it,
kinda
so
pissed off Hitler,
Hollywood
but
confirmed it.
Jesse Owens himself said he kind of turned it back on America. He's like, I actually got treated better in Berlin than I ever got treated in the south of America.
I totally believe that.
Yeah. And he's like,
Yeah.
and yet Southern Americans will treat me as a hero, but won't let me eat dinner with them.
Well, you think he's in Germany. It's an international affair. They're obviously not going to kill him or hurt him or anything like that.
And they're showing off how great Germany was. So they're on their best behavior.
They probably said some backhanded compliments to him.
Yeah.
You've got such great genetics for running. Like things like that. Really mean-spirited, but like, you know what I'm getting
Were you
at.
pausing for a second? Was like, was that racist or are you ignorant? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, what's
Yeah,
happening?
Hitler's like, we're a country full of Woody Harrelsons. You can jump so much higher than all of us.
That is fun, actually. I like that. That was a good joke.
Yeah. Well, at this time also, Hitler is obviously rearming the country. This isn't just because he wants to have a strong army. It's because he fully plans on going to war with anybody and everybody. Now, who knows about this? Obviously, the Nazi officials do, the military planners who are planning the invasions do, and the Krupps do. Krupps are being kept abreast of all of Hitler's plans. So they knew about like the occupation of... So they militarily reoccupy the Rhine. It was like a demilitarized zone in Germany. So when the Germans send like one division of troops in, it's this big deal, and everyone's like, oh my God, the Germans are remilitarizing. And Hitler has said many times after this, like, if the French had gone in, we would have had to retreat. We didn't have any training or any guns. But the French and the British too scared to fight. French are thinking about how bad the other occupation went, so they're not going to do it. And it works out well for Hitler. He had already let Krupp know. He's like, hey, we're going to try this thing. Let's see how it goes. It goes well for Hitler.
Right, and also what I kind of said before with like the Olympics, like a lot of people in those countries, like England and America, and like even some people in France were like pro Hitler.
Have you seen the footage of the Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
That big bunt or whatever. Yeah, bunt.
Yeah, it's like 100,000 people. Charles Lindbergh was like the keynote speaker.
yeah. He was. Well, Hitler was the cover of Time magazine.
Yeah.
in like 35,
Probably 36 actually.
36.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like very strange the way things panned out. You know, and now it's like now everyone's Hitler.
Everyone's
Now,
I mean, the man of the year this year is probably going to be Pete Davidson. So
things do change. Well, the man of the year, they're not doing man of the year anymore. It's only Whoopi Goldberg's of the year. Who,
well, guys, I'm just be thankful
of the
all
year?
of us were once person of the year.
yeah,
All right?
we've
done it. We've achieved the same thing as Hitler. We were all people of the year.
Was that a thing?
The person of the year in like 2003 or something was you.
That's the
that
dumbest
was the
shit.
mirror one, right?
Yeah, it was like a mirror. It was like the person of the
Yeah.
year is you.
Someone better burn down the Time magazine publication building. Fuck that.
We need to
place.
stop them.
Yeah, just stop them while they're ahead.
Yeah.
I don't care about Princess Diana dying. I don't need to read about this kind of shit. Put it away.
Now, so now we're up to like the 1939, early 1939. So for those who know your dates, you know what's coming. However, in the spring, Hitler tells the Krupps. So now I'm saying Krupps because Alfred and Gustav are like working hand in hand at this point.
Finally.
And he tells them, hey, we're going to invade Poland probably in August or September, just so you know. They go, great. We will suspend all shipments of arms to Warsaw. Now, I specify shipments because the Poles don't receive a shipment 1 week in March or April. And they're like, hey, where is it? And they're like, oh, the trains are all messed up. But your payments are still good, and we'll keep taking orders.
Yeah.
And then they're like, wait, it's been 3 months now. Where are all our guns? Oh, the trains, Hitler didn't make the trains run on time. Sorry, guys.
This technique has actually been adopted by the Girl Scouts for their inevitable takeover.
They're plotting
Right.
this?
Yeah, they're plotting. Have you ever
I've given
ordered
them
some cookies and then
I give him so much money for cookies. I wait all the time. I got to wait.
Yeah.
hate it.
They learned from the Krupps. Yeah, so this would be a pattern that would repeat for every single one of Hitler's declarations of war and subsequent invasions, is the Krupps would get about 6 months to a year's warning and would just stop sending out shipments but keep accepting orders and payment and just making up excuses as to why it was getting sent out.
All right.
Probably pretty easy for the intelligence community. Just be like, oh, well, they're not getting...
Well, wait a minute. Yugoslavia just stopped getting all their Krupp guns and their panzer divisions surrounding the country.
Yeah, I don't know, boss. Maybe they're going to get invaded.
Yeah.
Shut up, Steven.
The Panzers are there for fun,
shit.
Yeah.
so let's just get that out of the way. Okay, It's fun here on the border.
Now, this is when the spy stuff that we were talking about before is really paying dividends. They're really starting to give super accurate production numbers back to Germany, so the Germans know exactly what's coming. So now war is out, war's started. Let's jump into what happens with the Krupps during World War II. Gustav is 70 at this point, and he's starting to show his age. That's why Alfred is now kind of working hand in hand with him, is because Gustav is maybe kind of starting to lose it. He had shown a lot of cold feet once time came for the actual war part. He was so focused on rearmament that he forgot that it meant, oh, we're going to go to war again and we might lose. And even though they're winning a lot at the beginning, his paranoia just never goes away.
He's like a hoarder.
Yeah,
He's
a
like,
hoarder.
the world's going to end.
He's not a risk
Not
taker.
yet.
This guy's not a risk taker.
Right. He's like, maybe my wife is right. Maybe Hitler is just a gutter snipe.
Yeah. He starts doing weird things too, where he starts sending out diplomatic feelers to Paris and Washington and London, kind of saying can we somehow stop this war that's about to break out? And no one catches him for it, and he gets away with it. But he was basically committing treason against Hitler.
Yeah, but Hitler
right at the end. Like, right when he's like, ooh, do I want to do this? Maybe not.
Hitler may have known, and it could have been like a delay tactic, too. A delay on their end wouldn't have been so bad. They're still making guns. It's like they're stopping shipment.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have really helped if Italy started buying some of these guns.
Yeah, right?
But besides that, everyone else gets cut
No,
off.
we use a spaghetti gun.
I give you one Fiat. You give me 10 gun? Maybe 10 gun?
We make a Ferrari instead.
No, Mr. Mussolini. Benito Mozzarella. We will not be accepting calzones for guns.
Yeah.
It's just not sustainable.
But it's the Mamma Mia's what?
Yeah.
We have plenty of bread dumplings over here, okay?
Now, Alfred, he was a dedicated SS man. He has no such reservations. He's agitating for the fight, and so are all of his younger brothers. So all the other Krupp children, you have Klaus, who is described as like the near-perfect Aryan ideal, like tall, blonde, blue-eyed, strapping young Nazi.
Also, the name.
Klaus? Yeah, I know. Klaus Krupp. Well, actually, no. None of these kids are technically Krupps. That's part of, remember that how like Gustav was allowed to become a Krupp?
Oh, but they all had
Only
his
the
other
oldest son was allowed to become a Krupp. All the rest were von Bohlen und Halbachs.
Klaus von Bohlen Halbachs. The
Und Halbach. Don't forget the und.
Und Halbach. Now if there was an Aryan
Name
ever spoke.
Tom, I don't know. That sounds pretty Chinese to me.
Well, they're gonna
Bingy bongy bulk.
they might get more German as we go.
Guys, it's all access to me. What was China even doing during World War II?
Being destroyed by Japan.
Well, maybe they asked for
being
it.
raped by Japan.
I don't know. That's a harsh word.
The rape of Nanking.
Yeah?
What? I actually
the
don't
rape
know
of
this.
The rape of Nanking? You've never heard of that?
No, actually,
Oh.
I'm removed from a lot of Eastern history. I really
We're
am.
gonna talk about like General Hama next.
Get into it, please. Bring it in. Every time I've covered someone Asian on this,
let's
I've just
go from-
embarrassed myself out of a tech job.
Let's go from covering the Holocaust to the rape of Nanking. That's not depressing.
Oh, yeah. Next week on Depressing History.
We'll need another Hergé sprinkled in there to.
Hey, next week I'm starting a two-parter that is going to be very, very downtrodden with domestic violence.
At least that's personal. That's on a personal level.
Yeah, but it's a lot of it.
Oh, God. All right, so let's talk about these perfect Aryan children. Because we're just going to cover their fates right here.
Yeah, call them what they are. Perfect Aryan children.
So Klaus, he's the second oldest. He's in the Luftwaffe. Berthold and Harold were Oberlieutenants, which is like the equivalent of captain. And young little Eckbert, who's 17, is just a lieutenant. All three of them were in the Wehrmacht, and fittingly, they're all in artillery battalions. Now, we're going to cover the war, but I want to cover what happens to them during the war. This will kind of set the stage for the tragedy. Alfred, he's going to live on. He's in charge of the firm, never really in danger. Klaus killed in action over the skies of France in 1940. So almost right off the jump, Klaus is dead.
Cool.
Harold would be captured on the Eastern Front in 1944, and he would spend the next 10 years in Soviet prison camps.
Oof. That's hot gulags.
Real rough. Young little Eckbert, only 17 when the war breaks out. He lives until 1945, but he is killed during the German retreat in Italy. So only Berthold survives the war. And one of their daughters, Irmgard, she had married a German Wehrmacht officer as well, who would also be killed during the push for the push for Moscow in 1942. And they did not learn of his fate until the 1945, I think.
We can guess he's dead, though. They probably said that a lot.
Yeah, he's dead.
Hope he's all right, but
So
we know.
That's what's in store for the Krupp children. But when war breaks out at the beginning, in 1939, one of their chief concerns is, once again, how do we protect the Ruhr? That was their chief concern in World War I. We got to protect our industrial heart. Is France going to come screaming over the Ardennes forest while we're invading Poland? Nope, the French stay behind the Maginot Line, even though they probably could have just walked into Germany unopposed.
What a bad set of like timing. These French people and their timing this episode are killing me.
Yeah, could have gone in at any other time except for the one time they went in and had a great success, and said they go the one time that's going to be failure.
Talk about the zero blows.
Yeah. Now another Krupp family member. This is Bertha and Gustav's nephew. Now all of the Krupp, not all, but I think most of the Krupp children were all educated in like Oxford and Cambridge.
Cool.
Including their nephew, who is in Cape Town, South Africa when the war breaks out. He tries to sneak back to Germany so that he can defend the fatherland. He's captured in South Africa. They realize who he is, that he's a Krupp, so they're going to send him to an English POW camp. When he gets there, it's early 1940, so the war is not looking great for Britain, so they decide to move all the high-profile POWs that they have to Canada. While he's on his transatlantic journey, his ship is attacked by a Krupp U-boat and struck by a Krupp torpedo and sinks to the bottom of the ocean, where he dies.
Oh, damn.
Yes.
Did to yourself.
Now the Krupp guns are turning on their own.
Man, guns don't kill people. It's Krupps who are bad with guns killing people.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say he settled in Canada and then his great-grandson is now driving a truck across Canada.
His great-grandson is now a trucker.
God bless those people.
Yeah. So then finally Hitler turns the Blitzkrieg west in the spring of 1940, and it's 7 panzer divisions, all of which were built in Krupp factories that roll over the Low Countries and conquer France in just 6 weeks. Alfred, like his, I guess Alfred is his great-grandfather, right?
No, Alfred's his grandpa.
Just grandpa, right?
Yeah,
No,
just great-grandpa, because it's Alfred, Fritz, Bertha,
Fritz.
and then Alfred.
Oh, right. I forget about Fritz.
We forgot about Fritz because he was so quick.
He erased
In and out.
himself.
Yeah, he killed himself. Yeah, so his great-grandfather, tracking the progress of the German war effort in France, but he's not tracking how are my cannons doing. He knows his tanks are doing great. What he's tracking is what factories that are in France and Belgium have come, and Holland have come under our control and are now mine.
Smart.
Connor, I gotta stop you here.
Yeah.
Any renovations being done to Castle Hugel?
No, but they barely lived there at this point.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of just become like the office building. Actually, wait, no, there was some sort of construction because Alfred hated Villa Hugel. All the kids of his generation hated it.
What's to like?
I know, right?
There's nothing to like. It's just tall.
Yeah, that house of horrors. He built his own house somewhere else on the grounds. So that might have been under construction as the war was breaking out because he only moved into it like in 1940, 41. So maybe it wasn't as like clear as the other two, but yeah.
So you want to do some renovations around here? Nah, just order one of those Sears houses. Put it up.
We should look at the website now because it's a museum now. And if they're doing renovations, then we know they caused the war in the Ukraine.
Oh, yeah. Travis, can you look that up?
Yeah, I'll look it up.
Via Hugel. So he's tracking, dividing up the spoils of all these conquered territories. Even though, like, international law forbade this from happening, the Nazis, they're not following international law.
No.
So Alfred now is the controlling owner of factories as far east as Poland and as far west as the Atlantic coast of France.
Wow.
Are all part of the Krupp Empire now.
Damn.
Now, the bad news for the early part of the war is still just confined to the personal tragedies of the Krupps. Obviously, the war is going great for Germany at this point. But in 1941, Gustav suffers a stroke. Now, the family keeps it quiet. So quiet, in fact, that only Gustav, Bertha, the family doctor, and their youngest son, Waldtraut, who was too young to join the Wehrmacht.
Waldtraut?
Wait,
Waldtraut von Bohlen und Halbach.
Now that sounds like another perfect Aryan.
Yeah.
I was going to say, is he a Billy Bass? Like, is he related to Billy Bass?
I'm pretty sure this is like the only time he came up in the whole book. Like, I don't think he was...
And there was that guy. You know he lives in Argentina now.
Oh,
or did for till the 80s.
Yeah, and he's hanging out. He's just singing,
Yeah,
"Take me to the water, put me in the river."
Yeah, there's a Esteban von Bohlen und Halbach who lives in Buenos Aires and drives a Mercedes.
Well, why
has
not?
blonde hair and blue eyes.
You know, as the evil that these men did, they built a hell of a car.
Yeah.
So just an update. It seems like Via Hugel is open right now, although they are not doing private or public tours because of Corona.
So they're not open. What
They could be renovating.
They could be renovating. We just call them up. We'll call them up tomorrow. Say, are you guys renovating? Have you put in any new construction?
Is das knocking down das walls?
Now, this wasn't a completely debilitating stroke. He took time to recover, and he could kind of start to do a little bit of public appearances. But this is the beginning of the end for Gustav. He's less coherent than ever. He's not even working at the firm. He just kind of has an honorary title.
It's really what it is the beginning of some kind of Weekend at Bernie's scenario.
A little bit, yeah.
They're like kind of pushing him up at the podium.
Technically, I said honorary title, but his title is exactly the same, but it becomes honorary because they can't give the firm over to Alfred just yet. They have to go through some legal mumbo jumbo, even with the Nazis.
Paperwork.
Well, the
Aryans and their
fucking paperwork.
Every time these Aryans get involved, there's so much paperwork.
Yeah,
I think the only ones that have them beat are the Soviets.
Are they bad on paperwork? I would imagine they're terrible.
They both love their bureaucracies, just in different ways.
I mean, we all know, everyone knows this, that the DMV is definitely a result of some kind of Project Paperclip transformation.
Oh, it's gotta be.
Yeah, have you ever, we've all been to those places.
Yeah.
It's just this is close.
That's where the secret government's hidden.
This
I'm
is
just imagining
No building needs to be that big for that few shit that's happening in there.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining the U.S. government being like, "Have you seen Karl Klausman? Makes driving miserable for everyone in Germany. We need to get him over before he's tried at the Nuremberg trials."
It's crazy. It's like I feel like there is some kind of systemic racism within the DMV. I kid you not.
We'll root it out.
Yeah.
So we're not going to get too bogged down into the war. We're just going to talk about what the Krupp firm is doing during it. So we're going to skip right over the invasion of Russia. It happened. We all know.
That's not for the show.
No.
That's that's a big... Go listen to Dan Carlin and come back.
Yeah, go listen to Ghost of the Ostfront, have a great 12 hours, then come on back.
Yeah. Or he might cover something in the future.
Yeah.
Maybe just,
We're just doing puzzle pieces of these wars. They're not...
We're filling in the
doing a
blanks.
completionist war tale here. So
Doing really detailed, square inches of the big picture.
Exactly. And I feel like we're having some kind of podcast meeting on air right now. No one needs to hear this bit.
We'll fill in the wars later, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when the Third Reich reaches its zenith in the winter of 1941, the firm is a colossus. It owns factories, mines, plants, quarries, yada, 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 in every single occupied country, as far north as Norway, all the way down to North Africa, as far east as Stalingrad, and as far west as the Atlantic Wall. And this is when Alfred is kind of running into a problem. The firm, in fact, despite bombings that will happen in then 43 and 44, despite all the collapse of Germany then, will increase production every single month of the war until 2 months before American forces occupy Essen.
How?
Slaves.
Oh, right. Slaves, yeah.
Slaves.
That I would call that move a perfect Aryan.
Yeah. So Alfred needs more workers. He follows his father's lead in petitioning for workers impressed from occupied countries like they did in World War I, only this time the scale is much larger. By 1943, trainfuls of slaves are arriving from the East daily. At its peak, probably in early 45, Alfred has more than 100,000 people forced into slavery in the Krupp factories all across the continent.
Wow.
And this included children as young as 6 working in the Krupp factories doing stuff.
It's a young accountant.
Yeah.
That's a young HR manager.
That's a really young steel alloy engineer.
That's like all modern America knows too. Bill Clinton turned this country into be like, work sucks. I gotta go sit at a desk.
Yeah.
That's
all we do.
Shit.
We just sit in cubicles.
Shit. God.
Now, all the German industrialists were doing this. Some of them are claiming, and even Alfred himself would claim, oh, no, the Nazis gave us the slaves. We didn't ask for them. We have memoranda and letters and mountains of evidence that prove this is not true. And Alfred in particular was one of the highest agitators for more and more slave labor. In fact, he was so agitating for slave labor that to some Nazis, he was going too far by making Jews work in the factories. Because, Nazi ideology is so fucked up in the head that for some, forcing Jews to work in factories was worse than just killing them. Because, why would you have a Jew work? That's terrible. They should be dead. They shouldn't be working.
Right. Well, because their ideology is that they're subhuman, right? But why would they be working in a
exactly?
It's
they're taking away from a skilled worker, and then another Nazi is like, no, the skilled workers are doing the hard work. We need them to do the menial work. And then other Nazis are like, no, they should just all be dead. What are we doing here?
It just goes to show you how stupid these people were. Yeah, and then on top of all this, they're trying to summon Himalayan Yeti devils with their occult,
See, they put all the smart people. They were like, Jews aside, let's find out what's behind those rocks over there. Okay? Let's march some in. Let's see what's up. I don't care what you people would do with the Jews. I mean, as a Jew, I'd rather pretend I wasn't a Jew and go looking behind rocks for a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have that opportunity because they'd be like, this dick is way too big to not be. That's what they would say, which is a handicap in this time.
Yeah, and also, I mean, Krupp's is still around today. They use slave labor. Adidas is still around today. They use slave labor.
Yeah, Porsche, BMW, Mercedes, Hugo Boss.
Hey, look at the new Nazis. Nestle, keeping you fat and racist.
Yeah, Walmart.
Oof.
Guys, let's stop being serious.
No, let's keep being serious because Alfred is a really bad Nazi.
Yeah.
Not only is he one of the highest agitators for more slaves for his factories, his factories and the concentration camps that were run by the Krupps were known to be some of the most brutal in the entire Third Reich. There's a U.S. attorney who was attending Nuremberg not as a witness for prosecute, but to witness and watch and just kind of observe. And
that's a really interesting thing to do with your free time.
I know,
I'm
right?
just gonna go to Nuremberg trial.
I'm gonna watch the Nuremberg trials, honey.
Yeah.
I'll be back in a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a quote from this U.S. attorney. Quote: Alfred's exploitation of slave labor was worse than that of any other industrialist. Nowhere else was there such sadism, such senseless barbarity, such shocking treatment of people as dehumanized material. One little anecdote. We don't have to get bogged down in Holocaust terribleness, but here's one thing. They had cages underneath the headquarters that were 24 inches by 24 inches that they would put people who didn't work well into those cages and then dump water over them all day long. And nowhere else in the Third Reich did they do that, just in the Krupp works.
Well, you gotta look at these guns. Look at the quality of the gun.
Well, it's interesting you bring up quality, because that's about to take a turn.
Because they had Jews doing the work.
See, now
they're not.
Himmler's attitude has been justified.
They're just not crafty. They're smart. Don't get me wrong, but
no. So this
I'm
is
joking.
Guys, come on.
I think you know what? I mean, if you look at the Via Hugel logo, it's the 3 circles. It's just 3 bagels.
Well, that's the bottom line here.
The 3 interlocking bagels.
I promise you, I'm not kidding, guys. I ate at Ben's this weekend. What I'm saying is all forgivable. Continue.
So we're going to talk. The one thing about World War II, technical, strategical thing I want to talk about, because I'm a military history nerd, is what we're going to talk about right here. You said dip in quality, perfect transition. Because, like we said in the beginning of the war, the Germans did have a noticeable edge in technology and all of that. That slips by the middle of the war. It's not entirely because people have attributed it they're being bombed and now they're an international pariah, so no one's giving them trading with them. That's why their quality dips. That's not really true. In the Krupp firm specifically, it's for 3 factors. 1, Gustav's sick and ailing, even though he's technically still in charge. He's not doing anything. 2, Alfred has so much responsibility that he can't be involved in like the design anymore, the way that the other like Gustav had been before him and Alfred before that.
But he also doesn't have that much experience in design anyway. He's probably avoiding that.
He was good at it.
He was.
Yeah.
Okay.
So actually, some of the early Panzers were his designs. So he was good at it, but it was just something he wasn't doing because his responsibilities had just grown so much bigger. It's like how Jeff Bezos doesn't buy books for Amazon anymore.
Well, he
that's
doesn't
what
do
he's
anything
best at.
anymore.
Wait, are you telling me he doesn't buy books for Amazon anymore?
No.
Oh.
No.
How do you think he's getting so buff?
Because he's thrusting all night. He did a little Mary Shelley experiment and went to an adult store and picked the perfect blow-up doll to put a brain inside it. And now he's pumping, and that's how he's
daily.
getting so cranked.
Yeah, so that was the second reason, and then the third is the old Krupp designers who were still the ones who designed all the great stuff in the early 40s and the late 30s are still there, and basically as I was reading it, it seemed like they just got high on their own supply and were like, oh, we're so fucking good, we're gonna come up with the weirdest shit you've ever seen.
Oh,
and so
yeah,
they appled.
Yeah, they appled.
They adult swimmed.
Instead of making like 3 really good hardy tanks, they had like dozens and dozens of unique designs. So that's why the German, like when you look back at German military equipment, you're like, this is like the Panzer 45267 model, or like this is like the Tiger, this one, and it's like all these weird technical details, and they're really complex and not good. They're great on paper, and they're maybe great in the test field, but they're not good on the Eastern Front.
They're not tried and true. Like,
right.
You know, you can't just take something and like throw a ladder on top of it and like shorten the barrel a bit and go, this is gonna do it.
Exactly. And like the Soviets had 2 tank designs, and that was it. They had 2 designs, and they would like switch in a couple of different parts for different roles.
Their prerogative. I mean, they still have 2 designs. You know, they still
it's the Soviet way.
There's nothing that they don't have 2 designs of.
Yeah. You got Putin and Poutine.
Oh, apparently I was speaking of the poutine. So in I'm gonna get one of the words wrong. So in Brazil, they've been doing these memes. They're out of their minds because Brazil has no idea what's actually going on. Like, we don't know what's going on in Ukraine right now. They have less of an idea. They're memeing. They're memeing. I'm going to say that like a beamer. A beamer. So Puccinho is like to be mad, like someone who's like mad and upset or has a short fuse, like Puccinho. So they do that. They love that. Yeah, the smiling Putin is Felizinho and Puccinho, and like everyone thinks they're so funny. See all these memes in group chat all day. It's not funny. It's not funny. I get the joke. Only once, please.
So wait, Connor? Do you know if they were the ones that designed? I don't think it was ever built, but the like that super mega tank that
like the 1,000-ton tank. Yeah, that was Krupp.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I've seen on some YouTubes or something like them building it in like 3D or something, how big it was supposed to be.
Yeah, they were just kind of were like, yeah, big, that means good, instead of like the Soviets who were like, we found the T-34, it fucking rocks, so we're going to build a bajillion of them, and it has like 7 moving parts.
Well, they're also like, if they built this giant ass tank, like how easy would it be to blow up? You'd have one like squadron of planes come over and just you got a whole 7 football fields of tank to hit, or however big it was.
I don't know. Maybe they could. I don't know why I'm trying to reverse engineer something on behalf of Nazis right now. So let's continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, so by 1942, the Soviets, who had moved all of their heavy industry out of way of the Nazi invasion, that's just like a cool story on its own. They've just like, all the Soviet industry was in the Ukraine and Western Russia. And as the war starts, even though the whole army is in disarray, they basically disassembled and moved 1,000 factories deep into Siberia.
Wow.
And then reassembled them, and that's when they started building all the shit they needed. Pretty incredible. And this is when they finally make the T-34, which is the best tank in World War II. Don't let anyone tell you different. And in a weird twist of fate, the Krupps had actually, or the German army had captured blueprints for the T-34 in 1941. So like right at the start of the war with Russia. And they easily just could have started building copies of this amazing tank. And instead they're like, no, the Slavs made that. It's inferior.
Let's make a Zune.
Yeah.
Let's try. Let's see how the Zune would work on the market.
Make a Pontiac Aztec and see how it works.
Did you ever hear that story about how the Russians trained dogs to run underneath the panzers? The dogs were strapped with explosives, and they trained them so they'd see the panzer, right, and then it would run under the panzer and they'd blow the dog up. But the thing was, is they trained them on Russian tanks. So when they released the dogs, they didn't run to the Panzer. They just ran underneath.
They would
Russian
run under
tanks.
the T-34 instead of the Panzer.
Yeah. I mean, no one probably better than I. Like, the Russians have zero regard for life as it is. So they're probably like, well, that didn't work. Mm-hmm. Let's try with cats this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in 1943, that's the first time ever that the Krupp armament factory is basically arming the German war machine with inferior products. That's the first time this has happened, going back all the way to the 1860s. So now, things are not looking good for Germany in 43. This is when the Battle of Kursk happens. Anyone heard of the Battle of Kursk?
No,
I have.
Maybe the most important battle that no one knows about outside of the Eastern European theater. One historian said that like the Stalingrad was a psychological turning point, but Kursk was the military turning point.
Okay.
So basically the way the war had been going is the Germans would have a huge offensive in the summer, the Soviets would kind of push it back in the winter, and then in the summer the Germans would gain back what they had lost, and then kind of ebbed and flowed like that.
Right.
So now it's the summer of 43. Everyone's expecting the big German counterattack that's going to throw back what the Soviets had gained at Stalingrad. And the showdown is going to happen in a Ukrainian city area of Kursk, or it might be Belarusia, where there's this big salient in the line. So like there's this big bulb in the line. And so the Germans are like, here's where our big battle is going to happen. What it becomes is the largest tank battle in world history. Nothing bigger since. Nothing bigger before. 3,000 tanks on each side. It kicks off in early July. And within 3 weeks, 2,900 German tanks of the initial 3,000 are destroyed, 70,000 men are dead, and another 150,000 are captured or wounded. It was a disaster.
Damn. Holy shit.
The famous line is the Soviets cable back to Moscow, the tigers are burning. And it's basically like, this war is over. This is the sign that the German war machine has collapsed. They have inferior military. They have inferior everything. It's all coming down.
Do you think they would have cabled back like, so Sunday at Kursk, the most carnage you will ever see, mechanical tanks.
Let's get ready to rumble. Yeah. So that's Kursk.
Kursk.
Yeah. Big old battle. Germans lose. So now we're into the end phase of the war for the Germans. Gustav, in 43, this is when he also finally passed over everything to Alfred. They had to make a special law that would allow him to pass down the company as an estate wholly, because this
before
is
his death.
Before his death, and also without having to like break it apart, which was like the inheritance laws in Germany. Now, this sounds stupid because, like, why does this matter when it happens in 1943? It's Hitler. That's all going to change in 45.
Yeah.
That law that was on the books in 43 is the reason that when Alfred, spoiler alert, gets freed from an Allied prison camp after the Nuremberg trials, when he's pardoned, we'll find that.
Project Paperclip. That's got to be it.
He is allowed to keep all the Krupp holdings and becomes the wealthiest man in Europe by 1954.
Well, there you go. That's
yeah. So that's Alfred's, the Nazis' redemption.
And do you think that his lawyers may have been Jewish lawyers? Very good.
Well, let's go beyond that. Like, imagine that 1980s documentary series, where he's sitting by the pool wearing his Armani sunglasses and going, "It was hard.
It was real hard.
It was real hard. That was
tough.
really, a lot of sleepless nights.
Yeah, all my brothers died."
All that going on.
So Gustav is spending this time in the Austrian hunting lodge estate called Blunbach. Weird little side story. This is the old hunting lodge of Franz Ferdinand, the guy whose assassination kicked off World War I. After he got assassinated, who buys his estate? Gustav Krupp. And that's where they're spending most of their time. They don't really live at Villa Hugel anymore. Alfred is there because he uses it as his office place. And also in this period of the war, this is when the bombings over Essen are happening almost daily, And Alfred apparently would spend most of it standing on his porch, chain-smoking Camel cigarettes because he had stockpiled Camels before the war broke out because he knew that they were going to get...
Yeah, well, you got to get that sweet Turkish blend, man.
Yeah, so he had stockpiled them, and he would just chain-smoke Camels watching the bombs drop on his factories. But Gustav, he's safe off in Austria. He's still somewhat coherent. He has his moments of lucidity. He's able to go to a wedding in the family, and everything appears normal. But then he would have days where he can't remember who his secretary is, or
maybe that could have just been a front.
That could have been a front. Yeah,
I don't want to see.
You could have been like, "It's too warm in here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pretend I don't know what's going on."
And you bring me bad news too often.
Yeah. In fact, when he did the signing of this document that gave it all over to Alfred, Alfred and Bertha were really worried that something was going to happen, so they had two guys standing next to him in the foyer where they're doing the formal signature. Mm-hmm. And it's not Hitler there, but other high-ranking officials are all there. And so Alfred signs, and he's looking at everyone. Then he looks at his father, and his father gives a little shake of uh-oh, something's wrong. And the two guys next to him just pick him up and carry him to the bathroom.
Oh
shit! Yeah,
old
they just
man's got to pee.
Arm under his elbows, just shuffle him off.
Here we go.
Yeah. Now all this changes. November 25th, 1944. Bertha sees him working in a garden, which is one of the few activities he liked to do at this time. All of a sudden, he just stands up, looks around, startled, takes off running, trips, and breaks his arm and might have hit his head and got a small concussion. And so they're in the Alps. There's no hospitals nearby. The chauffeur, they throw him in the back. They're going to drive him to the nearest hospital. And the chauffeur, reportedly to avoid an accident, had to swerve and slam on the brakes. And Gustav's in the back, unsecured, and slams forward and hits his head into the metal bar on the back of the driver's seat. And when he gets to the hospital, he's in awful shape. He has another stroke in the hospital, and he is paralyzed for the rest of his life and not coherent at all for the rest of his life.
You mentioned metal bar. Could that perhaps be a steel Krupp bar?
It was a miniature show cannon. Okay, all right. No, I don't know what it was, but yeah. So that's kind of the end of Gustav's story.
Yeah, he's just pudding now.
He's gonna stumble on for another 6 years, just bedridden.
It doesn't count.
Doesn't really count.
Yeah, he's got sauerkraut brain.
So instead, let's just finish up the Krupp story. There's a lot more, but we're gonna speed run this last little bit. In March of 1945, Americans seize bridgeheads over the Rhine. This is the first time foreign troops are entering Germany since Napoleon. Alfred responds by burning all the evidence of the concentration camps he'd built.
I mean, it's a good start,
Doesn't burn all of it. He started too late. He had sent actually a bunch of the most secret documents to be hidden in vaults, but the Allied advance was faster than he thought, so all of it got seized before it could get to those vaults.
Oh, that's rough. That's rough paperwork. I don't know why you keep so much paperwork.
I know. Well, it's the Nazis. They love paperwork.
Right. DMV. Remember that.
Yeah. The Americans enter Essen proper in April, and that is when they enter Via Hugel. And Via Hugel at this point is used now as a watchtower for American artillery spotters, because there's have you ever heard of the weird stuff Germany was doing at the end of the war, where the super hardcore Nazis were recruiting people from age 6 to 75 to fight till the death efforts? There were some of these happening in the Alps. There was one happening across the river from Via Hugel, and so the Allies were using it as a spotting to shell this area.
I know towards the end of the war, too, with the Luftwaffe, they were kind of doing what Japan was doing all along, where they were like, we'll teach you how to tet this off the ground, but you don't need to worry about landing.
Yeah. Don't worry about landing. Just park it right in there.
Yeah. And you'll know you did it right if you're in heaven.
So the Americans liberate
heaven.
They liberate all the slaves that were in Essen. And again, these were they had built huge concentration camps around the city for all the slaves there. There was one in particular that was the most heinous. We won't go into detail, but it was a specially built concentration camp for the babies that were born in the other concentration camps.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Why would they even move? I don't know. Come
Nazis.
on, really? Why would you even
can't
move
even
the baby?
ask why.
You're already
evil.
killing these people. Come on, just spike them.
They're
spike them over the wall.
They're just real evil people. So when the Americans free it, they kind of start to exact a bit of a revenge. They're stealing from civilians. They're forcing Krupp workers to like tour the concentration camps. Whenever they try to like cover their nose from the smell, an Allied soldier would like punch them in the face and like pull their arms down. So, good shit by the Allies. On April 11th, Alfred is arrested by American soldiers, and for the next 3 years, he was just kind of awaiting trial and on trial in Nuremberg. There was a special Krupp trial, where it was all the industrialists being prosecuted. And before he's sentenced or convicted, Gustav finally, mercifully dies January 16th, 1950. Again, he'd not been lucid at all for 6 years and was barely coherent for like the 3 years before that.
Okay. Right, you don't think that he like Hitlered himself?
No. The interesting thing about him though is, so obviously when the war broke out in 1939, he's still perfectly fine, lucid, and leading the company. And because of the war, no one really knows the inner workings of Germany too well. They're not broadcasting it. There's not press coming out. So as the Allies are pushing through in Europe, they're like, where the fuck is Gustav? We got to find Gustav Krupp. Meanwhile, he'd been like an invalid, bedridden guy for the last 2 years of the war. So they were hunting him, and he was wanted for war crimes, but once they found him, they're like, oh,
look at him. Look at how sad this guy is. He's got stacks of pornographies. He's got Yoo-hoo.
Yeah.
And sick man.
They didn't even have Alfred on a list, so that kind of shows they're like, I guess this is the guy that we really want.
Smart.
Yeah. So Alfred is finally sentenced to 12 years for his crimes against humanity and war crimes. He would spend a year in prison before the American High Commissioner for Germany, a guy named John McCoy, would pardon him, and not just pardon him, but restore all of the property that had been confiscated by the Allies following the occupation of Essen.
See, this is, the shady Irish. They do this.
All of it.
McCoy? Yeah, more like Nazi boy.
I wish I read more about this part, because the McCoy guy is like, when I read it, I was like, oh, he must be a Nazi sympathizer. And then you look, he's like, he integrated the U.S. Army, and then he also did this. Who the fuck is this guy?
I think he was probably just trying to give everyone a fair chance.
So it was
which is always a mistake.
Yeah, it was a mix of like, I think Paperclip obviously wasn't technically part of Operation Paperclip, but that idea was playing a role. And also like, we want a strong Western Germany to face the communists, because he's also pardoned right as like the Korean War hits its like high, like when it's really bad in Korea. So they're kind of like, we just need to stop the communists.
That was like a common thought. Watching Patton, and like the last days of Patton, starring George C. Scott. Patton was big on that too. Like he was like, when the war with Germany was done, he was ready to forgive them and ally them, so they had a front against the
Patton
the Russians.
Wanted us to just keep marching.
Yeah,
he was like, no, don't turn the tanks off. Just keep going to Moscow.
Yeah, and Eisenhower was like, I don't know. It's like, it's complicated stuff. Everyone's kind of in the wrong all the time anyway. What are you going to
do? I mean, this is the common trend of America. We just let other people that we don't know enough about, just arm them or let them off the hook, because the evil Russians or the evil, whatever enemy of the week is.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they're not evil, but I would say that maybe why are we caring so much?
Yeah.
Now, before we leave the Krupps, I just want to tie a nice little ribbon on this story, because we've been with them all the way back since the first Krupp stumbled into Essen in the 1600s. So Alfred, like I said before, he's going to become the wealthiest man in the common market, what it was before the EU. He will die in 1967, I think, from lung cancer. But I want to mention his son, because, like we said, Krupp's firm's still around, but it's not run by any Krupps.
Right.
Because when Alfred died, he stipulated that the foundation that he had set up was going to become like the sole proprietor and running the corporation. Because Arndt von Bohlen und Halbach, he was not going to take over his father's legacy. Audio listeners, we're going to include this one. We have to include this picture in the artwork because it's just too perfect. This is the only picture of Arndt on his Wikipedia page.
He looks like Jude Law getting a blowjob.
He does look like Jude Law in the middle of a blowjob.
Krupp.
Trav?
Oh, you holding it up? Oh, jeez.
And I want to read a couple of select entries from his Wikipedia page. This is from the marriage and later life section. Despite being notoriously homosexual, like his great-grandfather Fritz Krupp, he married Princess Henriette von Augsburg in February of 1969. They had no children.
Well, you know.
He died at the age of 48 in 1986 from jaw cancer, and he had been an alcoholic for a long time, deeply in debt, so clearly the money had dried up. And then this is also in that same section of his Wikipedia article. In his book Life, Keith Richards stated that Arndt was a regular party companion in Marrakesh. And Arndt also has a section of his Wikipedia that just says quotations. It's one quotation, and this is what it says. "That's the last thing I need," end quote, when asked if he ever thought of working.
Well, what a guy.
So we go from Alfred, who wanted to sleep on the factory floor, to Arndt, who wanted a party in Marrakesh with Keith Richards.
Well, apparently homosexuality is genetic. Because all these people are gay. In one way or another.
Somehow.
I mean,
Either obsessed with big cannons or polishing cannons.
Let me ask you something. Let's go back to Bertha for a second. Is she dead? What happened?
She dies.
She's probably, was she 170 now?
She's 184 years old. Still the wealthiest woman in Germany.
Cool.
No, she dies in 1957. Kind of just like floated on the rest of her life. Not really much known. She's just kind of like,
Yeah.
She wasn't like convicted during the trials or anything?
Again, even though she was the one who had all of the money and the wealth, so technically in that ceremony where they're signing over all the stuff to Alfred, it was really just Bertha signing over her stuff instead of giving it to her husband to give to her son. It was more so that than anything that Gustav was doing, because he didn't own anything.
Yeah, right. He was also dumb in the brain, and like, who was it? The Kaiser. He was the one who put them together, right?
Yeah, Wilhelm.
Yeah, so Wilhelm's like, you guys are...
Yeah, Wilhelm...
Gustav, you're probably gay, like I mentioned. You're going to need a wife.
Yeah.
To pretend.
Wilhelm was living in the Netherlands during the interwar period, because he was just exiled. He just abdicated and was exiled. But Gustav still wrote him letters all the time.
Dear Kaiser.
Dear my Kaiser. The Führer is mean to me, unlike you.
He's a gutter snake.
My wife hates him.
He's always thinking about the beans.
I hope that comes out eventually, that we find out Hitler was obsessed with beans.
No, that's a thing. You didn't know about that?
Really?
Yeah.
I know he was a vegetarian, but I didn't know he was obsessed with beans.
Huge part of his diet was beans, and he was known for his farting. He was a farting man. I'm not making this up at all. As a relatively gassy guy myself, too. Like, I get,
Jawohl, it's good for you.
Yeah. He big on vegetarianism, hated smoking. And I think
drink.
That the doctor who like ended up injecting all that meth into him, he was brought in to get rid of his gas. Like that was the initial starting, oh, hello, doctor. But Germany's a wild place. It really is.
Yeah. And we spent a lot of time there in these last few weeks.
Yeah, I'm ready to leave.
Yeah.
I'm truly ready to get out of there.
I'm ready to not constantly be having Krupps on the mind.
Yeah.
It's been in my head for about a month and a half now.
You read a 1,500-page book for this, right?
I read 2/3 of a 1,500-page book. I could read more to find more about how Alfred became the richest man in the common market. And apparently Arndt waived his inheritance because he just didn't want to fucking work.
That's fucking dumb as hell.
Well, I think he still had the money, but he was just like, I don't want to be the fucking Krupp. I don't want to be the leader.
Right, so he's like, I only have my allowance of $1 billion a year.
Remember, Arndt's mom was the divorcee that Alfred had married and then had to divorce because she was the family shame. So I think Arndt hated the Krupps, is my guess.
Okay. I can buy that. You know, mom's talking shit, being all divisive.
Yeah.
I get it.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, either way.
Yeah, Connor, thank you for this epic that you've brought.
I know.
Epic of a family that you've brought in.
It felt like everyone should know about the Krupps.
Yeah. A lot of perspectives here. I learned a lot of things about the war times, the war
Learned
efforts.
a lot about Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot about Germany and a lot about the world. I mean, the Chrysler Building.
I feel like we learned a lot about each other, too. You know?
We did.
Yeah.
We certainly did. If you want to learn more about us, go to patreon.com/roastmortemcast. We recently changed all of the tiers and everything on there. Go read the statement on there. It's very simple now. We don't offer much except for the best show you've ever heard. So I don't know. Is it worth supporting us? Yeah, it is. If you've been listening to us for this long and aren't, then I don't know.
Yeah.
But go read the statement, seriously. We've changed a lot of things, and I'm happy to do the show upon reflecting, you know?
Yeah.
It's been good.
Yeah.
It's been zen.
Glad we can share it with y'all. Travis, do you have any parting words? You being the closest to a Nazi here, do you have any apologies?
What do you mean I'm closest to a Nazi?
What a guy like that, I don't know, dude. Like, I've been growing my hair out, and I'm thinking a lot about your hair, and it's like kind of Hitler Youthy, and I don't know. But do you have anything to say, an apology to me or to anyone else?
I'm going to say, guess what? Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Have a Kruppsy week. Have a Kruppy week.
Have a crumpy week, everyone.
Yep. Thank you, Shane.
Thank you, Shane.